Comet 3I Atlas crashes into Earth, and a wave of widespread destruction starts shaking our planet. Ginormous tsunamis are swallowing coastlines, devastating earthquakes are cracking the ground. Hot debris is igniting massive firestorms. Thick clouds of dust are blocking the sun. Now, that's what could happen if 3I Atlas, a massive comet traveling through the solar system, collided with our planet. But can this disaster actually occur? When will 3I Atlas be the closest to Earth? Let's figure this out. First of all, this comet turned out to be way larger than we previously thought. Its weight is likely a whopping 33 billion tons. Let's throw in a few comparisons to put it into perspective. The Eiffel Tower weighs about 10,000 tons. So, 33 billion tons is roughly the weight of 3.3 million Eiffel Towers. Impressive! Next, all the cars on Earth, and we're talking about 1.5 billion vehicles, each weighing about 1.5 tons, weigh approximately 2.25 billion tons. This means that the comet's mass is 15 times greater than the combined weight of literally all the cars on the planet. And finally, compared to buildings on Earth, 33 billion tons is equal to several large metropolitan areas made entirely of steel and concrete. But the whole idea of how big this comet is fades in comparison with an even crazier fact about it. It could be unknown technology from a different galaxy, and some experts are somewhat sure about that. But why? 3I Atlas was first spotted in July by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. A bit later, the US Space Agency confirmed that the object was an interstellar object, only the third we have found so far. Before, it was Comet 2I Borisov that passed through in 2019, and Oumuamua, a weird elongated object that appeared in 2017. But the newest comet, with its up to 3.5-mile nucleus, dwarfs Oumuamua, which is just a quarter-mile long, and Borisov, which is about 0.6 miles across. By the way, some believe that the comet could be even bigger, up to almost 7 miles, but scientists haven't found any proof of that yet. Besides its size, 3I Atlas is different in other ways too, which makes some scientists question its origins. The object is shedding huge amounts of carbon dioxide and dust while zooming towards the sun. It's most likely the proof that 3I Atlas is more massive than the other two interstellar objects by 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, which is basically a serious anomaly. The comet is also traveling toward the sun incredibly fast. We're talking about around 130,000 miles per hour, which is almost 170 times the speed of sound. Another weird thing is that this interstellar object is following a straight trajectory, unlike anything else in the solar system. Most space bodies move along curved orbits due to the force of gravity. That made some researchers believe that 3I Atlas might be a probe sent by another civilization to explore Earth, possibly with not-so-friendly intentions. Their theory is that the object could be a technological artifact, a sign of cosmic intelligence. You see, the comet moves in a pretty weird way that doesn't totally line up with just gravity. Its trajectory also takes it close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. And researchers think that these planets might be especially interesting for another civilization to pass by. Another bizarre fact, the space traveler also spins backward compared to most stuff in our solar system. This might be necessary to make it easier for 3I Atlas to get near Earth without much resistance. Some scientists think the comet's odd spin and flight path could help whoever or whatever made it take super precise measurements of the planets, things like their orbits and sizes, to plan a perfect route through the solar system. If 3I Atlas suddenly changes direction in a big way, that might mean it's using some kind of built-in engine instead of just drifting through space. There's also another theory that suggests it could be a piece of unknown tech that's still active. There's no need to worry though, at least at the moment. The comet isn't coming anywhere near us. NASA says it'll stay around 150 million miles from Earth when heading toward the Sun. So the question is, where do such space visitors come from? Astronomers have found that the 3 interstellar objects we discovered came from totally different parts of the galaxy. And each of them has its own age and background. 3I Atlas turned out to be the oldest, about 4.6 billion years old, and it came from the Milky Way's thick disk. That's a region filled with older stars that have fewer heavy elements. 1I Oumuamua is much younger, around 1 billion years old. It came from the galaxy's thin disk, where new stars are still being born. Oumuamua, Hawaiian for a messenger from afar arriving first, was the first known object from another star system to pass through our solar system. Basically, the first interstellar guest. It was super stretched out, about 10 times longer than it was wide, unlike anything else we've spotted in space. It also sped up in a way that couldn't be explained by gravity alone. Changes in brightness showed it was tumbling end over end instead of spinning smoothly. At first, scientists were confused because the space body didn't have a tail or cloud of gas like a normal comet, even though it was accelerating. That led to a lot of debate about what it was made of and where it came from. Just like with 3I Atlas, some people wondered if it could be technology created by a space civilization. But most scientists now think Oumuamua was a totally natural object, just a really weird one. The best guess is that it was a comet releasing invisible hydrogen gas, which caused it to speed up slightly. Sadly, by the time astronomers found it, it was already heading out of the solar system, so there wasn't much time to study it. As for 2I Borisov, it sits in between at roughly 1.7 billion years old. It also came from the thin disk. It was the first confirmed comet to come from another star system, and it gave scientists a super rare peek at what materials beyond our solar system were made of. The comet was discovered in 2019 by Gennady Borisov, an amateur astronomer who actually built his own telescope to search for faint space objects. Unlike the first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, which looked more like an asteroid, Borisov behaved like a classic comet. It had a bright coma. That's a temporary fuzzy atmosphere of gas and dust forming around the comet's nucleus as it approaches the Sun. Plus, it boasted a long tail of dust and gas. Studying 2I Borisov helped researchers learn more about how other planetary systems form. Observations showed that its dust grains were compact and that the amount of gases like carbon dioxide changed a lot as it approached the Sun. It could mean that the comet formed under very different conditions than anything else in our solar system. Now, 2I Borisov is speeding away from the Sun and will never return. But it allowed scientists to take a unique glimpse into the chemistry and history of distant worlds. Interestingly, the differences between these 3 space objects suggest that interstellar visitors have been getting kicked out of planetary systems all across the galaxy for billions of years, so it's not something new. To figure out if 3I Atlas might be some kind of probe from another planet, scientists are checking for any signs of technology, like strange radio signals, electric activity, and weird movement patterns. If the comet suddenly changes course or drops smaller objects nearby, it might be our cue. But even though 3I Atlas is moving in a pretty wild and energetic way, it's most likely just a natural interstellar object passing through. Researchers say they'll need a lot more proof before anyone can seriously say the space wanderer was sent by someone from another planet. What do you think about this newly discovered space traveler? Share your opinion in the comments.
One of the best and most convincing pieces of evidence that extraterrestrial civilizations have visited Earth could be the epic Nuremberg space battle of April the 4th, 1561. It was recorded either in 1561 or 1566. Different sources provide different information. All the retellings of this story focus on the woodcut picture and a vague summary of events that occurred that day. The emphasis is always on crashed spaceships and space battles. Almost everywhere you read or hear the story, it goes like this. The inhabitants of the city woke up early on an April morning and saw a staggering celestial show that looked like a real space battle. This story sounds even more convincing when you find out that some objects allegedly fought for quite a while. And some even crashed. You can see them in the lower right corner. Look at the picture once again. Orbs and crosses fighting, a giant arrow and bizarre tubes, crashing ships. Wow, that had to be a spectacular cosmic battle. To make it all more plausible, Hans Glaser, the artist behind the woodcut, was a very real person. He really did woodcuts, and this one is indeed from the time and place that it says it is, meaning it's not fake, and it does depict a real event that had its own witnesses. For all intents and purposes, it looks like very convincing proof of aliens visiting us, but don't get your hopes up. A superficial perusal of facts seems to confirm an extraterrestrial presence on our planet. But the most likely explanation is much more mundane. The Nuremberg 1561 UFO battle is just an atmospheric phenomenon called a sundog, or parhelion. A sundog is a concentrated spot of sunlight that can sometimes be seen to the right or to the left of the sun, or even on its both sides simultaneously. Sundogs often appear as a pair of patches of light with subtle colors at the same altitude over the horizon as the sun. They can have a variety of forms, from colorful spots to patches of light so intense and bright, it looks like there are two additional suns in the sky. Sundogs are weird looking enough to make it seem that something scary and otherworldly is going on in the sky. At the same time, it's just our planet's atmosphere or ice in the upper parts of the sky acting as a prism or reflective device. This prism makes the light from the sun or moon do weird things. This image can help you visualize the phenomenon. Apparently, Nuremberg had the perfect conditions for this phenomenon to occur. If you examine the depiction of this event and compare it with modern pictures and videos, you'll soon realize that a sundog is indeed a more likely explanation than the Galactic Empire paying us a visit. Let's find the proof of this statement in the translated description of these events and in the woodcut picture itself. First, the sun showed and was seen with two blood-colored half-round strokes, like the diminishing moon right through the sun, and in the sun, above, under, and on both sides, stood blood-colored and partly bluish, or iron-colored, also black-colored round orbs. Now here's the photo of a sundog. It has a halo surrounding it, and a red orb. And if we have at least one red orb, there could be others showing up during other events. Plus, keep in mind that sundogs are like prisms. So, depending on how light is reflected, there could be multiple colors present during such a phenomenon. Now, referring to circled plates mentioned in the description, those could be halos. For example, this sun halo looks vaguely plate-like, and it seems to be linked to other sun halos. And indeed, people have seen halos with multiple orbs. Some of the orbs could have taken a cross-like shape. If we watch some modern videos of sundogs, we might notice that the orbs on film are sun-colored. But since the Nuremberg event happened between 4 and 5 a.m., the clouds and the sun could have had reddish and orange hues. As for the fighting, it could be as simple as one shape moving a bit and changing shape along with the movements of the sun. It could have looked as if it was pushing the other shapes out of the way. Do you agree with the scientific explanation? Or do you prefer to think that Earth was visited by guests from a galaxy far, far away? Write your opinion in the comments.
Imagine this. Long ago, in the depths of prehistory, aliens visited Earth. Yep, that's right. According to ancient astronaut believers, intelligent extraterrestrial beings made contact with humans thousands of years ago. And not only that, those alien visitors influenced the development of our cultures, religions, technologies, and maybe even our biology. All those divine beings in many ancient religions? Well, some say they were actually aliens with fancy tech, mistaken for deities by early humans. The pyramids, Stonehenge, Easter Island statues, all alien handiwork. At least that's what they claim. Ancient astronaut believers often claim that humans are either descendants or creations of those extraterrestrials. Aliens supposedly came down from the skies and kickstarted our civilization. To back up their theories, these believers point to so-called out-of-place artifacts. They take ancient artwork, legends, or even unusual archaeological finds and say, look, that's proof of alien contact. Mainstream historians and archaeologists, of course, have different perfectly reasonable explanations for all this stuff, but ancient astronaut enthusiasts aren't convinced. Instead, they argue that gaps in our historical records and the mysteries we can't explain must be the work of extraterrestrials. So, how about we hear them out? The most famous proponent of ancient astronauts was Erich von Däniken, the author of the pseudo-scientific book, Chariots of the Gods. He popularized the theory that many ancient deities were actually aliens. He even suggested that those extraterrestrials were light-skinned and Aryan in appearance. Uh-oh. At the same time, the notion of ancient aliens didn't start with von Däniken. It traces back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Early sci-fi novels like Edison's Conquest of Mars and the works of H.P. Lovecraft first toyed with the idea. The concept took off in the 1950s, gained even more traction during the space race in the 60s, and became a worldwide phenomenon. And even though many critics discredited von Däniken's work by the 70s, his influence was strong in fringe circles. Surprisingly, scientists today agree that the idea of ancient astronauts isn't impossible, but they add that it's definitely unnecessary. The so-called mysteries of history can all be explained through science, archaeology, and good old human ingenuity. No aliens required. But ancient astronaut believers often point to religious texts, suggesting that myths about gods descending from the heavens are actually tales of aliens arriving on Earth. Take, for example, the Sumerian myth of the Anunnaki. Some people interpret it as aliens coming to our planet to mine gold and creating humans as their slaves. In Hindu mythology, there are flying vehicles called vimanas, which believers say are actually ancient spaceships. Now let's finally figure it out. Did aliens visit ancient humans? Well, some people think so, and they believe the Bible might actually have proof. For example, in the Bible's book of Genesis, there's a story about the sons of God marrying the daughters of humans. Their kids were called the Nephilim giants, who roamed the planet. Some Christians think these sons of God were just different families of Adam and Eve's kids. But others, as well as ancient astronaut theorists, argue that those were actually aliens who mated with humans, creating half-human, half-alien hybrids. The King James Version of the Bible even translates Nephilim as giants. In the Book of Enoch, which adds more detail to Genesis, it says that 200 angels, known as the Watchers, came to Earth, bred with humans, and taught them all sorts of things like metallurgy, magic, and astrology. Those angels, disobeying God, were eventually locked up, and God sent a flood, aka the story of Noah's Ark, to wipe out the Nephilim and the humans who had learned forbidden knowledge. Ancient astronaut believers think that this story is about aliens who were supposed to simply observe humans but broke the rules and got involved, and their offspring are the very Nephilim half-alien giants. Some also say that modern UFOs carry those fallen angels or their descendants still roaming our planet today. Let's move on. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet described a wild vision of a huge, fiery cloud with strange creatures and wheels sparkling like gems. Those beings had 4 faces, wings, and shiny bronze legs. The wheels with the help of which they moved were full of eyes and could go in any direction without turning. Sounds pretty sci-fi, huh? Ancient astronaut theorists believe Ezekiel described a spaceship, possibly piloted by extraterrestrial beings. This idea has been floating around, pun intended, since the 1950s. Some theorists also claim that the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest that held the 10 Commandments, was some kind of advanced alien technology. The same goes for other biblical objects like the Urim and Thummim used for divine communication. In the 1960s, some authors suggested that many biblical events, including miracles, were really alien tech at work. Even more shockingly, Barry Downing, a Presbyterian minister, even argued that Jesus himself was an extraterrestrial. He pointed to certain verses where Jesus said, "I am from above." The minister believed that it could have been the proof that Jesus had been an alien visitor. Some proponents also suggested that the biblical idea of hell could actually be the description of the planet Venus. The theory goes that ancient aliens might have shown early humans photos of Venus's fiery, inhospitable surface, and that inspired the idea of hell. They also claim that God and Satan were alien beings who disagreed on whether humans should be given forbidden knowledge. Others compare this to the Greek myth of Prometheus, the hero who gave humans the knowledge of fire. Some even say that the original sin in the Bible, when Adam and Eve disobeyed God, was actually about alien offspring mixing with early humans. But hold on, there's even a claim that the Book of Invasions from Irish mythology, which talks about the arrival of the Tuatha De Danann, is actually about aliens arriving in Ireland. According to the legend, they came in dark clouds and caused the sun to disappear for 3 days. Ancient astronaut theorists think this could be a reference to spaceships with cloaking devices. Now, some people think that ancient artwork is full of clues that aliens visited Earth a long time ago. Let's dive deeper into the details. Ancient astronaut believers point to cave drawings, especially those from the Hopi and Zuni tribes, that show Kachina's certain spirit beings and say they might actually represent star people, which means extraterrestrials. They argue that similar drawings found around the world are proof that aliens visited many different ancient civilizations. There are also examples from places like Australia and Italy. Drawings there look a lot like astronauts with dome-shaped helmets. Some people think those cave pictures show early humans encountering aliens wearing spacesuits. Another source of potential evidence comes from medieval and Renaissance paintings. Ancient astronaut fans claim that many artworks from this time show UFOs. For instance, in Madonna and Child with the Infant St. John, there's an odd object in the sky that people say looks like a flying saucer. You'll find more in other famous paintings like The Annunciation by Carlo Crivelli, Holy Trinity by Bonaventura Salimbeni, and Miracle of the Snow by Masolino da Panicale. However, experts, like Italian art historian Diego Cuoghi, argue that these objects aren't UFOs whatsoever. They symbolize religious ideas like angels, radiant clouds, and others. One of the most popular ancient astronaut claims is based on the Nazca lines in Peru. These huge ground drawings, depicting animals and geometric shapes, can only be fully seen from high above. Some think they were created according to instructions from aliens, or that the long lines might even have been runways for their spaceships. At the same time, archaeologists say there's no proof of this. They think the lines were actually used for ancient ceremonial purposes. One researcher even recreated a figure using just simple tools to show how they could have been made by the Nazca people themselves. But wait, there's more to consider. Some artifacts like the Saqqara bird from Egypt and the Quimbaya artifacts from Colombia, Ecuador, are said to look like modern planes or gliders. Ancient astronaut believers think these might have been models of alien spacecraft, even though mainstream archaeologists are sure that they're just stylized representations of birds and insects. Then how about sites like the Pyramids of Giza, Machu Picchu in Peru, Baalbek in Lebanon, Stonehenge in England, and the Moai statues on Easter Island? They often get linked to the idea of aliens. These structures are so massive and precisely built that humans of the time couldn't have made them without help from extraterrestrials. Mainstream archaeologists don't agree and say ancient people had the skills and manpower to move even huge stones. There have been experiments showing that large megaliths can be transported using simple ancient technologies. And still, some believers argue that the sudden rise of ancient Egypt's advanced civilization, and especially the construction of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was due to extraterrestrial influence. Now look at these massive Moai statues on Easter Island. They have puzzled people for a long time. Some ancient astronaut believers say there's no way humans could have moved such heavy structures without using alien technology. But in the 1980s, a group of researchers figured out a method that involved using ropes that made the statues walk across the landscape with the help of just a small team of people. But how will you explain this fact? Some ancient cultures, including the Egyptians and some Native Americans, used to artificially lengthen the skulls of their children. Ancient astronaut believers think they did this to mimic the appearance of extraterrestrials, whom that they might have seen as deities. Pharaoh Akhenaten and his family, who are often depicted with elongated heads and other unusual features, have also sparked theories of alien influence. Scientists believed that such features were probably caused by a genetic disorder due to inbreeding, which was common in royal families. Akhenaten was known for worshipping the sun god Aten, and some suggest his focus on the sun could be tied to a disease that sunlight helped relieve. Now let's get one thing straight. Mainstream scientists and archaeologists are not buying ancient astronaut theories. They call this whole thing pseudoscience, arguing that such wild claims often twist, misinterpret, or even outright fake evidence. The Pentagon has recently released a report, and according to the New York Times, they haven't found any evidence of aliens, spaceships, or visits from extraterrestrials. Last summer, a former U.S. intelligence officer named David Grush claimed at a congressional hearing that the U.S. might have been hiding secret programs for decades to detect and study aliens and their tech. He even said the U.S. had pieces of alien spaceships and even actual alien remains. However, the 63-page report put together by the U.S. Department of Defense's Anomaly Resolution Office says that since the 1960s, people have been confusing American spy planes and drones with UFOs, or what they now call unidentified anomalous phenomena. Pentagon spokesperson Patrick Ryder said they were keeping an open mind, but found no proof of aliens or hidden government programs. He mentioned that most sightings were just normal objects or misidentifications. In February last year, after a few unidentified flying objects were shot down over the US and Canada, an interagency group was created to look into the whole UFO situation. At the time, John Kirby from the National Security Council noted that this phenomenon had been around for a long time, but previous administrations hadn't really tried to explain it. Now, why is the ancient astronaut theory so popular? The human brain needs an easy way to explain incomprehensible things, and blaming them on some extraterrestrial powers is a simple way to do it. The supporters of the theory often take fragments out of historical and cultural contexts, ignoring the broader meaning of those pieces. Plus, they assume that alien technologies must be similar to ours, and that aliens must be interested in the same things as humans, which would be very unlikely even if aliens existed. The ancient astronaut theory, despite its popularity in certain circles, is classified by the scientific community as pseudoscience since it does not comply with the principles of the scientific method and is often based on distortion of facts or false analogies. At the same time, come to think of it, the universe is unimaginably huge. Does it really sound possible that in the vast, constantly expanding cosmos, we're the only intelligent, technologically advanced civilization? What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments.
You're standing next to a huge floor-to-ceiling window of the spaceship/wandering city you've been calling your home for a dozen years, along with a few hundred other people. You're watching a fascinating object nearing your spaceship, wondering if it'll bring an end to this journey and your life. It looks like an asteroid, but acts like a comet, moving as if something is pushing it. Can it be the engine created by another space civilization? Are you doomed, or are you about to have contact with a different kind of intelligence? Now, let's leave this post-apocalyptic fantasy and take a closer look at these space invaders called dark comets. The most intriguing question is obviously, what makes them move? Most likely it's some gas or material escaping from the surface of these space objects. Interestingly, until recently, no one has even been sure they existed. The first dark comet was discovered just a few years ago, and since then, researchers have identified 14 of them, including 7 new ones found just recently. The story of dark comets began in 2016, when scientists noticed something strange about an asteroid called 2003 RM. Its orbit wasn't quite what they expected. It had shifted slightly, and no one could explain that shift by typical asteroid behavior, when they received tiny pushes caused by sunlight heating an asteroid unevenly. Instead, the movement suggested that 2003 RM might have been releasing material, something comets often do. But there was a catch. The thing didn't look like a comet. There was no tail, no visible gas cloud. It was just a tiny dot of light, like a regular asteroid. At first, scientists thought 2003 RM was just a one-off mystery. But in 2017, a telescope spotted another strange object, this one from outside our solar system. It was Oumuamua. It too looked like an asteroid, but had a path that changed as if gas were escaping from it. The similarities between Oumuamua and 2003 RM made researchers think there might be more of such odd objects out there. By 2023, 7 more had been discovered in our solar system. These discoveries were enough to give this new type of object the name of dark comets. Now, scientists have enough data to start noticing patterns and learning more about their characteristics. And so, they have identified 2 main groups of dark comets. The first group, called outer dark comets, is larger, with sizes ranging from hundreds of feet to even more. They follow long elliptical orbits, similar to traditional comets that come from regions near Jupiter. The second group, inner dark comets, is smaller, usually tens of feet across. These comets move in almost circular orbits and stay closer to the Sun, near planets like Earth, Venus, and Mars. The main question these days is, where do dark comets come from? Can they be the remnants of larger bodies that broke apart? These space bodies could help us understand the history of the solar system. What if they had delivered the ingredients for life to early Earth? Once we study dark comets better, we might figure out if they contain materials like ice or organic compounds. And indeed, some researchers are sure that dark comets may contain or once have contained ice and played a big role in bringing water to Earth. According to a couple of studies, some asteroids in the asteroid belt, a region between Mars and Jupiter filled with rocky debris, might have ice beneath their surfaces, and this ice from the asteroid belt could have traveled into near-Earth space. In other words, it could be a pathway for water to reach our planet. So far, no one is saying that dark comets definitely brought water to Earth, but they might be another mechanism for moving ice from one part of the solar system to another. The study also hints at a connection between dark comets and a group known as Jupiter family comets. These are comets whose orbits are strongly influenced by the gravity of Jupiter, often pulling them inward toward the Sun. This connection makes it even more difficult to understand where dark comets come from and how they behave. Now, let's take a closer look at the differences between asteroids and comets. Traditional asteroids are rocky bodies that orbit relatively close to the Sun, typically within the ice line. This region is so close to the Sun that any ice on an asteroid's surface would turn directly from a solid into a gas, leaving behind only rock. Comets, in turn, are icy bodies that form farther from the Sun. When they approach the inner solar system, their ice starts turning from a solid to a gas tube, creating a visible cloud called a coma or a tail while releasing dust and gas. Dark comets blur these definitions. They appear as rocky asteroid objects without a coma or tail, but they have behavior typical of comets, and that's small non-gravitational accelerations. These accelerations occur when ice turns into gas, giving the object a slight push. After analyzing 7 known dark comets, astronomers estimated that between 0.5% and 60% of all near-Earth objects might belong to this mysterious category. And since dark comets likely come from the asteroid belt, ice is likely to exist even in the regions of the belt previously thought to be too warm. Now, near-Earth objects like dark comets don't stay in the same orbit forever. The near-Earth environment is unstable, and objects typically remain there for about 10 million years. Since the solar system is over 4.5 billion years old, this means that new near-Earth objects must constantly replace those that are lost. Now, astronomers have used computer models to simulate the movement of objects under the influence of non-gravitational accelerations. They've traced the paths of these objects over a span of 100,000 years and discovered that many ended up in the same regions where we find dark comets today. Now, do you remember that space rock 2003 RM, which was the first to be called a dark comet? Well, it provided a particularly interesting clue. Its elliptical orbit brings it close to Earth, then out near Jupiter, before returning to Earth again. This trajectory matches what scientists would expect from a Jupiter family comet, an object that was likely knocked inward from its original orbit. Most of the other dark comets studied, however, seem to have come from the inner regions of the asteroid belt, closer to Mars. Dark comets are often small and spin rapidly. Astronomers often describe them as dirty ice cubes, all because these objects are a mix of rock and ice, and when they cross the ice line, their ice begins to turn into gas. This process not only causes those small non-gravitational accelerations, but also increases their spin rate. And the faster these objects spin, the easier they can break apart into smaller fragments. The pieces that break off also have ice, and as they spin faster and faster, they break into even smaller pieces. This process continues until you're left with very small, fast-spinning objects. This cycle of fragmentation helps explain why dark comets are often so tiny. But it could also mean there are more of them than we currently know about. The dark comet research provides new insights into the distribution of ice in the solar system and its potential pathways into the near-Earth environment. It also raises intriguing questions. For example, how much ice remains hidden in the asteroid belt? Or could dark comets have played a role in delivering water or organic materials to Earth? One of the most important points is that dark comets may represent a significant part of near-Earth objects. If it turns out to be true, it could mean that our understanding of the population of near-Earth objects and their potential risks for our planet is far from complete. The processes shaping dark comets, from sublimation to fragmentation, could be a major factor in the evolution of icy bodies throughout the solar system. Luckily, these days, scientists have an opportunity to combine advanced modeling with observations, which can eventually shed light on that very elusive class of objects that could have clues to the history of water and life on Earth.
There are tons of weird things on Mars. Spoons, noodles, doors, even faces. Are they all really just rocks? Besides, it's not the only planet in our solar system full of mysterious things. Let's check them out. Recently, we found a strange thing on Mars that looks like a smooth, spoon-like object. It grabbed everyone's attention after NASA's Curiosity rover spotted it. The rock, with a handle and rounded tip, looks like it's floating in the rover's photo. People on the internet are puzzled about what it might be. Some are joking that it's a Martian's bowling pin, or even a shoehorn left by extraterrestrial creatures. But Andrew Good from NASA says it's not that exciting. Turns out it's just a rock shaped by the wind over a long time. These kinds of rocks with odd shapes are common on Mars. They're called ventifacts. Ventifact is a rock that can get scratched, dented, or smoothed out by tiny particles carried by the wind. You'll usually find these kinds of rocks in dry places where there's not much grass or trees to block the wind, and where there's a lot of sand blowing around. Sometimes, the wind can carve ventifacts into really cool shapes, like the mushroom rocks you can see in the White Desert National Park in Egypt. These rocks look like giant mushrooms because the wind wears away the bottom part faster than the top, making them stand tall and slim. Ventifacts aren't the only cool Martian rocks. Check out this series of surreal spikes protruding from the red surface. NASA's Curiosity rover stumbled upon them while exploring the Gale crater on Mars. They quickly caught everyone's attention. Twisting structures resembling spikes looked like some extraterrestrial doors. Even the SETI Institute, an organization focused on searching for extraterrestrial life, tweeted about the image, referring to it as a cool rock. But in reality, these are just hoodoos. These tall and thin spires occur when hard rock sits atop softer rock layers. Martian spikes are likely cemented fillings of ancient fractures in sedimentary rock, with softer material eroded away over time. Again, there are many hoodoos on Earth too. They're also called fairy chimneys or tent rocks. You can find them in places like Utah's Bryce Canyon and the Colorado Plateau. NASA is excited about these weird structures because they can help us learn more about the history of the Gale crater. There was also a rock that looked like a jelly donut. We called this rock Pinnacle Island. It was spotted by NASA's cameras. However, just 4 days earlier, it was nowhere to be seen. So how did it magically disappear? In a very anticlimactic way, it was kicked up by one of Opportunity's wheels as it traversed the Martian terrain. But there's still some mystery surrounding that jelly donut. Analysis revealed that Pinnacle Island contains unusually high levels of sulfur and manganese. Both of these things are water-soluble. In other words, there might have been some water action that created these elements in the rock. So this tiny thing suddenly caused a lot of drama, and an entire lawsuit against NASA. It claimed that the agency failed to investigate a possible fungus growing on Mars. Jelly donut fungus. But not all our findings are natural. Another puzzling discovery was this thing the Perseverance rover spotted. It's something that looks like tangled spaghetti or string. Just like the donut, this mysterious object showed up in a rover camera image and then vanished from the sandy ground in several days. It turns out that it could be debris from the rover's landing system. Perseverance landed in the Jezero crater in February 2021. It had a rough landing and accidentally scattered debris around. Some of these debris pieces have been showing up in the rover's images for a while now. The string-like object is likely a piece of shredded Dacron netting, which is a type of fiber used in thermal blankets. These blankets help regulate equipment temperatures during the super hot process of landing on Mars. It probably underwent significant unraveling and shredding due to strong forces during the landing. Thermal blankets lost a bunch of stuff back then. For example, this shiny foil piece spotted in June. The rover found it on a rock. What's remarkable is how far some of the debris has traveled. The rover landed about 1.2 miles away from where it's currently exploring. It's probably because the crash threw the debris into the air, and the Martian winds carried it over such a distance. Mars is known for its strong winds, which can move lightweight objects. However, while it's fun to stumble upon them on images, there are concerns about the debris and trash on Mars. We haven't even fixed this problem on Earth, and we're already creating it on Mars. The debris we left on the red planet is already accumulating in an area called Hogwallow Flats. Plus, the debris can accidentally contaminate the sample tubes used for collecting Martian rocks. So far, NASA isn't overly worried about this, but they're keeping a close eye on it to prevent any issues with the rovers. Now, how about not things, but animals? Curiosity caused quite a stir when it captured something that looked like a rat on Mars. Some started speculating that it could be evidence of indigenous Martian life, or even that this rodent was brought along by Curiosity. But the Mars rat, once again, turned out to be just a weird rock. It looked interesting because of the natural processes like wind erosion and mechanical abrasion. We also found some worm-looking things. Curiosity snapped a picture of a formation that looks like worms wriggling across the Martian landscape. Despite its tiny size, this formation stands out with its unique shape and rough texture. It's probably made of durable material resistant to Mars's harsh erosion. And finally, our top mysterious finding is the face on Mars. Cydonia is a region on Mars that has captured both scientific and popular interest. It's located in Mars's northern hemisphere. It lies between heavily cratered regions to the south and relatively smooth plains to the north. There's a theory that the northern plains may have once been ocean beds. Maybe Cydonia was once a coastal zone. This place is full of interesting and beautiful features that tell us a lot about the history of the Red Planet. But its most interesting feature was the Martian face. This thing gained widespread attention when it was snapped by the Viking 1 orbiter in 1976. Some believed that it was evidence of a long-lost Martian civilization. At first, NASA dismissed it as a trick of light and shadow. But after some analysis, it turned out to be, yep, another rock. We also saw a face of a bear. It was captured by the high-resolution imaging experiment camera. In an image, we can see a circular fracture pattern that looks like a bear's head, with two craters forming the eyes and a V-shaped collapse structure like the nose. The head likely formed because something heavy settled on top of an old hole in the ground. This hole was filled with either lava or mud. The nose-like feature is speculated to be a volcanic or mud vent. But why do we keep seeing these strange things on Mars? Sometimes our brains can trick us into seeing things like faces or objects in rocks and other things. But these are just illusions called pareidolia. Pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon that makes us see familiar patterns or shapes, especially faces, where none actually exist. It's because the brain encounters something it doesn't recognize or understand right away. It tries to find things that look the most like this one, so it sees random patterns, textures, or sounds as something meaningful and recognizable. That's why a chair and clothes on it seems like a super creepy human-like figure at night. It also causes you to see faces or shapes in clouds, or hear recognizable sounds and even words in random noise. It's a fascinating proof of the power of our perception, but we also should be careful with it and not let our imagination run wild.
The James Webb Space Telescope, an astounding piece of equipment built to outperform the Hubble Space Telescope, has made a terrifying and amazing discovery that might completely change our perception of the universe. It has successfully detected a faint glow coming from a staggering 7 trillion miles away. Can this glow be shining city lights coming from some mysterious extraterrestrial world galaxies away from us? Well, let's start from the beginning. A few years ago, NASA's Infrared Spitzer Space Telescope helped us spot a family of 7 rocky exoplanets orbiting the same star. This star is known as TRAPPIST-1, and recently, our new infrared powerhouse, the James Webb Telescope, has measured the temperature of one of those distant worlds. It was a planet called TRAPPIST-1b. Unfortunately, it turned out that this Earth-like planet was totally uninhabitable. Astronomers took James Webb's mid-infrared camera, called MIRI, and looked at the planet's thermal emissions. We can picture the whole process as scientists using heat-sensing Terminator vision. The results were quite disappointing. TRAPPIST-1b turned out to be scorching. Its average temperature was around 450 degrees F. That's as hot as in an oven. Plus, the planet most likely doesn't have any atmosphere. At the same time, this discovery was another record-breaking first for the telescope, which had already produced some newsworthy results by that time. It was the first time researchers detected any form of light emitted by a small and relatively cool exoplanet similar to the rocky planets in our own solar system. No previous telescope had enough sensitivity to measure such dim, mid-infrared light. When 7 TRAPPIST-1 exoplanets were first discovered, the astronomical community was ecstatic. That's because all those faraway worlds were about the size of our home planet and located in their star's habitable zone. It's the region that is just the right distance away from a star for liquid water to exist on a planet's surface. Thus, the planetary system became the best place to look for rocky planets with an atmosphere. But don't get too excited yet. These planets aren't likely to become new worlds for humans to explore, mostly because the TRAPPIST-1 planets are totally out of our reach at the moment. They're just too far away, at a whopping 235 trillion miles away. Their star is also much smaller and redder than our Sun. It's classified as an M-dwarf star. In our home Milky Way galaxy, there are twice as many of such stars as there are stars like the Sun, and they're also twice as likely to have rocky planets orbiting them. It's probably not surprising that astronomers are very interested in such stars. They're the main targets for seeking potentially habitable planets, and it's also way easier and more convenient to observe rocky planets around such smaller stars. But there's a catch. M-dwarfs are more active than our Sun. They frequently flare and spew high-energy rays which are likely to be extremely damaging to planets' atmospheres and any forms of extraterrestrial life. When researchers examined TRAPPIST-1b before, their observations weren't sensitive enough to determine whether this world had an atmosphere, or if it was just a barren rock. But now, we know. The planet is tidally locked to its star, which means that one of its sides always faces the star, while the other is stuck in perpetual darkness. The latest simulations suggest that if this planet had an atmosphere, its temperatures would be much lower since the air would redistribute the heat around both sides of the planet. Unfortunately, the James Webb Telescope recorded much hotter temperatures than needed for such a favorable scenario. It indicates the absence of an atmosphere and knocks the planet off our list of possibly habitable worlds. But the main excitement here isn't actually the features of TRAPPIST-1b. The main takeaway is that James Webb is capable of making such kinds of measurements. It'll help us explore the atmospheres and temperatures of many other distant worlds.
The planet races through space. Its orbit is unstable, like a pool ball gliding across the table looking for a target to collide into. Only this ball is the size of Mars, and it's going 9,000 miles per hour. Boom! It crashes into another planet. This Mars-sized object was called Theia, and what it smashed into was Earth. The impact released 100 million times more energy than the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. The planetary collision threw tons of solid material from both objects out into space. But only one of the bodies survived. Theia was obliterated and then swallowed entirely by early Earth. But that debris didn't go flying endlessly into the cosmic void. No, something crucial happened. All those solid chunks gathered into a cloud. Gravity squished it together, pressing more and more. And in the end, our moon was born. So goes the theory. At the time of the impact, the solar system was just forming, and this rendezvous of epic proportions probably wouldn't have happened if it weren't for a newly formed Jupiter throwing Theia off its orbit and straight into Earth. Our young planet withstood the blow. Time passed, Earth evolved. Its surface will become unrecognizable over the next 4.5 billion years. It's hard for the human mind to understand this vast amount of time, so we'll squeeze it all into one day. If midnight is when Earth first formed from gas and dust that remained after the Sun's creation, the next 4 hours show a lifeless planet. Red hot, covered in lava, constantly bombarded by asteroids and, as you know by now, even a whole other planet. Yet life finds a way. The first cells appear. It's 4 a.m. on the clock. At 2:08 p.m., we see the first single-celled organisms form. It's not until 8:28 p.m. that sea plants appear. 20 minutes later, what's this? Jellyfish. After them, the planet flourishes with different fish, reptiles, insects. The forests grow at 10:30 p.m. Between 10:56 and 11:40, dinosaurs roamed the Earth. The giant lizards ruled our planet for less than 1 hour. A minute before the dinosaurs' extinction at 11:39 p.m., the first mammals begin to run around the planet. At 11:58 and 43 seconds, humans appear. In the cosmic scale of things, we've only ruled this planet for 1 minute and 17 seconds. So here's the main question baffling scientists. Why didn't life on Earth ever stop? It had every chance to cease. Why didn't our planet become like Venus or Mars? They both once had an atmosphere and oceans. Today, they're lifeless deserts. Forget about complex scientific concepts and theories of the universe's structure. Our little rock and all its inhabitants are just incredibly lucky. Professor Toby Tyrrell at the University of Southampton used computer programs and climate simulations to solve the puzzle of why asteroid collisions and ice ages didn't turn our little rock into a lifeless wasteland. The research team took not 10, 100, or 1,000 virtual planets similar to Earth. They used 100,000 for the experiment. And every single one of those 100,000 were simulated 100 times. They exposed these virtual planets to different phenomena. They were bombarded by asteroids, frozen, exposed to epic eruptions of supervolcanoes that blacken the skies and block the surface from the sun's rays. Just 9%, or 8,700 of them, were successful one time in 100 simulations. Of that group, 4,500 planets remain inhabited 10 times. Only on one planet out of 100,000, life didn't stop all 100 times. If life is a lottery, Earth got extremely lucky. In 2009, the unique Kepler telescope was launched into space. Its task? Search one patch of the night sky, or 150,000 stars, for rocky Earth-like planets. Over 9 years in service, it ended up surveying more than 500,000 stars. In all that time, with all those observations over nearly a decade, Kepler discovered 2,600 possible Earth-like planets. The weird thing is, Most of them are a type you can't find in our own solar system. They're something between the size of Earth and Neptune. But back to the real Earth. If you go far from the city and look up at the sky, you'll see an ocean of stars. If you're lucky and it's a clear night, with an unaided eye, you could count a maximum of 2,500 points of light. Yet, there are at least 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. Some estimates put the numbers of stars in the Milky Way up to 400 billion. So where's this giant range coming from? Well, counting stars isn't exactly an easy job. Scientists obviously don't number each one individually, 1, 2, 3, and so on. You know how long it takes to count just 1 billion? Over 100 years. Now multiply that by 400. Instead, they look at small patches of space and use some complex scientific formulas to make educated guesses of how many stars there are in total. You can do a similar experiment yourself. Imagine a bucket filled with 10 pounds of rock, sand, soil, and other items. Your job? Understand how many rocks are in that mix. We'll count only those rocks that are visible to us from above. Get a rough estimate of their volume and weight, what percentage of the total we can see, and with some calculation, you can get a number. Is it exact? Nah. Why? Because you can't know if the rocks in the bucket are spread evenly throughout, or if they're all about the same size throughout. What if the ones at the bottom, if there are any, are bigger or smaller than your sample view? They could have completely different weights and volumes. That bucket is our Milky Way galaxy, and the rocks you are counting are stars. The point? Scientists can't know for sure how many stars there really are. Maybe 100 billion, or perhaps 4 times that. Of those, 4 billion are like our Sun. With our own galaxy, the most accepted estimate for planets that could potentially support life is 300 million. Though, as the tradition of scientific inexactness goes, that number could be up to 5 billion or more. Either way, lots of real estate to choose from. And that's just the Milky Way. But get this, it's just one of 200 billion galaxies in the observable universe. The most recent research puts that number 10 times higher, something like trillions of galaxies in space. And we've only studied less than 10% of them. As for how many stars there are in the universe, scientists put it at 1 septillion. That's 1 followed by 24 zeros. Again, it's all estimates because we can't know for sure. So far, one thing is clear. Our Earth is the only place in the universe that we know of where there's life. And this planet has done everything it can to change that. Over the past 540 million years, more than 20 major extinction events have occurred. The last one was 66 million years ago. Yup, it was the one that took out the dinosaurs, and 75% of all life on this planet for that matter. An object 7 miles across in diameter smashed into our planet. It was going 120 times faster than the fastest car today. Over 900,000 miles all around the impact site, everything caught fire. A huge tsunami swept across the world's oceans. Billions of tons of dust and sulfur rose into the sky and blocked the sun's warm rays. A global cooling came to Earth. A little over 200 million years ago, there was a lesser-known extinction event that wiped out half of all life on the planet. Most likely volcanoes or an asteroid strike are to blame. Other theories say the movement of tectonic plates triggered another ice age. At that time, huge crocodiles ruled the Earth. They disappeared and new animals entered the arena of history, dinosaurs. But the worst this planet has ever seen was the Permian-Triassic event about 250 million years ago. 80% of marine life, 70% of land animals and plants, all gone. Volcanoes spewed out a colossal amount of lava where modern-day Siberia is, but it affected the entire planet. Around 445 million years ago, the dominant life form on our planet was marine invertebrates. There was only one continent, Gondwana, and plants were just starting to flourish on land. But something happened that took out 75 to 85% of all living organisms. It could have been an ice age, rising temperatures, or a more daring theory. Some think it could have been a huge star exploding 6,000 light-years from Earth. It launched a jet-like gamma-ray burst that ripped across space, and poor little Earth happened to be in its path. It burned off the ozone layer instantly. Yeah, we kinda need that thing to protect us. Case in point, no matter how much this planet, or even the universe, tries to wipe out life on Earth, which is here in the first place from unbelievable odds, life always finds a way. Whoa! A wall of fire spreads around the epicenter of the impact. It burns everything in its path. The waves raised by the explosion cover large cities, and earthquakes are so strong that giant skyscrapers fall like a house of cards. So, these are the possible consequences of the collision with the first interstellar object in history to visit our solar system. We discovered it in 2017, but we're still not sure what it is. An asteroid, a comet, or a spaceship of some outer space civilization. So far, scientists have named it Oumuamua. Sounds like a Hawaiian cow. Well, whatever it is, its speed is much faster than other asteroids, about 54 miles per second. At that speed, you could cross the US from coast to coast in less than 3 minutes. So this asteroid could travel from Earth to the Sun in about 2 months. By comparison, our rockets can travel up to 17,000 miles per hour. The same trip across the United States would take them about 9 minutes. So, many scientists speculate that this is an artificial object created by a very advanced civilization. Okay. The shape of the object supports this theory. It's long and narrow and resembles a spaceship. It's about half a mile long, way bigger than the Eiffel Tower. Scientists decided to see if Oumuamua was really someone's spaceship and pointed some radio telescopes at it. If the civilization on that ship had used communication or scanned us with their tech, we would have known about it. But there was complete silence. Kinda like that. Not a single radio wave. But that doesn't disprove the theory of outer space civilization. To find out for sure, we decided to determine the weight of the object. To do that, we use light. More precisely, its reflection. You see, different materials reflect light differently. We take an unknown black stone, for example. It absorbs almost all the light, reflecting almost nothing. Check out the catalog, it's charcoal. Knowing the size and material of the object, we can determine its weight. So, we need to see how much light this object reflects. And when scientists pointed their telescopes at Oumuamua, they learned that it reflects colors that match with iron and also with some solid rocks. And Oumuamua was flashing all the time, a bright flash. Then it would slowly fade, and then it would start to shine again. This means it was spinning. And it wasn't going around its axis like an arrow. It rotated chaotically, moving its edges up and down. Any artificial object or spacecraft would have been torn apart by such overloads. But Oumuamua is still intact. That means it's made of super hard materials that keep it from falling apart. And it's not hollow like a spaceship. It's one solid body. Hey, like me. The astounding speed of this object makes it pretty mysterious. Some comets can have the same or even higher speed, but they also have a kind of rocket effect. So when a spaceship starts from the launch pad, you see fire bursting out of its engines. Every second, the rocket mixes fuel with oxygen, ignites them, and ejects them at a tremendous speed. According to the laws of physics, this is like pushing off a wall. The rocket sort of jumps up from the combustion gases it throws down. That's how the rocket creates thrust and accelerates. Comets work on a similar principle. The sun's rays hit the surface of the comet. Light elements like ice start to evaporate. That gas goes one way, the comet goes the other. Just like a rocket, the comet is pushing off the evaporating gas and accelerates. This gas also forms the comet's long tail. It's as if the massive rock is dragging all this gas behind it. I can relate. Or it's like a car pulls air with it when it goes at high speed. But Oumuamua is not a comet, and it doesn't have that tail, and it doesn't have the same rocket effect as a comet, so it couldn't have accelerated to that speed. But some scientists believe that Oumuamua used to have a tail. Although we discovered it in 2017, it entered our solar system in 1995, and it was hit by the sun's rays even back then. When we discovered this asteroid, it had already lost about 95% of its mass. It simply evaporated. Other scientists believe that Oumuamua got this velocity during its birth, somewhere far away in another star system or nebula. Perhaps it was a dramatic collision of some exoplanet with another cosmic object. The colossal explosive energy of the collision threw the elongated shard into outer space. Or it could have been a supernova explosion. When a star reaches the end of its lifespan, it becomes a red giant. It's an inflated version of the star, hundreds of times bigger. Then it shrinks and explodes with tremendous force. The blast waves can travel many light years away from the epicenter, and it's one of the brightest events in the universe. So, the supernova might have torn some exoplanet to pieces. One of them, Oumuamua, gained a lot of energy and speed and began its long journey toward Earth. This might explain why Oumuamua keeps spinning so wildly. But recently, scientists published a theory that Oumuamua may be a giant block of ice. The kind of ice we're used to is water, H2O, but Oumuamua could be nitrogen ice, N2. It may have remained intact in interstellar space for 500 million years. And when it arrived in our solar system, nitrogen ice could have reflected 2/3 of the sun's rays, so it didn't heat up as much. That explains why Oumuamua doesn't have a tail. You can find the same nitrogen ice on Pluto, as well as on Triton, one of Neptune's moons. So Oumuamua comes from a similar icy exoplanet. But we can find out for sure only by sending a space probe to it. Scientists came up with a plan for that called Project Lyra. The problem is that Oumuamua is leaving our solar system at tremendous speeds, much faster than our rockets can fly. And we need to catch up with this space rock as quickly as possible before it gets too far away. To do this, we can use a gravity maneuver. First, the space probe makes a flyby of Jupiter. It passes close to it to take advantage of its gravity to accelerate. After that, the probe will head towards the Sun, and it'll fly around it as close as possible to fire like a catapult towards the space rock. The second option for reaching the asteroid is to use microprobes. We have to launch about 1,000 of them into orbit. They should be no heavier than a match. Each of them will have a light sail the size of a boxing ring. Then we'll focus a powerful laser beam from the ground onto this sail. It will allow us to accelerate the probe to about 20% of the speed of light. It shouldn't go too fast not to fly past the asteroid. It should be able to enter its orbit or land on it. But if we're too slow, Oumuamua will leave our solar system before we can catch up with it. It'll be a great experience because in the future, we'll be able to use such asteroids as a space taxi. All we have to do is enter the orbit of such an interstellar asteroid or even land on it. Then we would keep moving through space at incredible speeds without using any fuel at all. This would be a great option for traveling long distances or to deliver supplies to other star systems. So why should we be afraid of such objects? Well, a collision with an asteroid the size of Oumuamua could wipe out an entire state. If it were to hit somewhere in the ocean, it could cause waves taller than our skyscrapers. Scientists are anxious to find ways to protect us against such objects. One of them is ramming. If we spot a potentially hazardous object, we could send a spaceship towards it, pedal to the metal. The spacecraft will have to ram the asteroid at an angle that will move its trajectory just a little bit. Moving it too much on a cosmic scale would only dramatically change the asteroid's final destination, and we only need to get the asteroid past our planet. We can also create a controlled explosion on the asteroid. It's based on the same principle. The force of the explosion would have to shift the trajectory of the asteroid slightly, or smash a giant rock into smaller pieces. Asteroids up to 80 feet wide would burn up completely in our atmosphere due to friction against the air. Rocks between 80 feet and half a mile in size may not burn up completely and cause local damage. Anything larger is considered very hazardous. You think? The traditional method of science fiction is to put rocket engines on the asteroid. Then we can not only change the trajectory of the space rock, but also control it. And we can use it against other asteroids. It would be something like space billiards.
Aliens have invaded Earth and they are not here for friendly interaction. It all begins with the detection of an extraterrestrial signal by the SETI network. This isn't just random space noise. This is a clear sign of an alien civilization. Once the information reaches world governments, rumors start circulating that aliens are on their way to Earth. The US, Russia, and China are the first to learn of the threat, but all governments try to keep the news secret, knowing that widespread panic could lead to catastrophic consequences. At first, nothing happens. Days turn into weeks, and skeptics begin to mock the very idea of an invasion. News channels call it a hoax, while conspiracy theorists claim it's a government distraction. People continue their daily routines, unaware that something is already approaching at an unimaginable speed. Then, without warning, they arrive. Their ships break through the atmosphere, not in a slow cinematic descent, but in an instantaneous burst of speed, defying human understanding of physics. The first crafts land in major cities across the globe: New York, Moscow, Beijing, London, Tokyo. Within hours, the entire planet is covered in their presence. Authorities still don't know who these beings are or what they want. Are they destructive creatures seeking Earth's resources? Or perhaps they want to expand their empire? Another theory emerges. Maybe these invaders are artificial intelligence created for space exploration, no longer dependent on planet conditions for survival. Attempts to communicate prove futile. Linguists, AI systems, and mathematicians fail to decipher their signals. Then comes the first attack. In one swift moment, a military base in Nevada is wiped off the map, leaving only a perfectly circular crater. The world realizes that this is not a peaceful encounter. The aliens begin their offensive, and it becomes clear that they are not here for diplomacy. Earth, rich in minerals, water, and other valuable resources, is an ideal target. Their technology far surpasses ours. Despite our best efforts to resist, our military stands no chance against their lasers, nanotech, and antimatter bombs. Even the United States, with its trillion-dollar military budget, can't match the alien technology. As they destroy key military bases and power infrastructure, the world is plunged into darkness and chaos. World powers begin to cooperate, but nuclear weapons are considered a last resort, knowing that using them could doom the planet. With cities in ruin and society unraveling, millions of civilians are forced to flee to remote areas, hoping to survive. Meanwhile, scientists scramble to understand alien technology, hoping to find ways to protect Earth or develop vaccines against possible biological threats. The global communication network is broken, and humanity is on the brink of collapse. The aliens continue their systematic destruction of Earth's defenses. Satellites are taken out, cutting off global surveillance. Drones and fighter jets fall from the sky like birds caught in a storm. Entire armies are reduced to ash in seconds. Panic spreads. Governments collapse. The world's leaders either go into hiding or perish in the initial wave of destruction. Civilization, as it was known, is no more. As time passes, the alien technology continues to overpower us. Our military forces are crushed, and our only hope now lies in guerrilla warfare by civilians. The United States, with its high number of privately owned firearms, may have a better chance than other nations, but it's still unlikely that we can withstand the alien onslaught. Small resistance groups form in hidden bunkers, underground tunnels, and abandoned cities. They communicate through salvaged radios, sharing whatever knowledge they have about the invaders. Some manage to take down individual alien soldiers, but their victories are short-lived. The aliens adapt quickly, learning from human tactics, neutralizing any newfound weaknesses. However, there's another possibility. Maybe the aliens aren't here to destroy us. There's a theory that such an advanced civilization might have evolved to be peaceful, having long overcome the destructive tendencies that lead to war. Another theory suggests that aliens might not need Earth's resources, as space is abundant with energy and rare minerals. Alternatively, they might just be studying us, like creatures in a zoo, observing our progress without interference. But reality sets in once more. The aliens proceed to the next stage of their plan, terraforming Earth. This could involve altering the atmosphere by releasing gases like methane or ammonia, slowly making the planet inhospitable for humans. They may also manipulate the oceans, changing their acidity or salinity, which would destroy marine life. To further reshape Earth, the aliens activate dormant volcanoes and trigger earthquakes around the globe, either to alter the planet's environment to their liking or to access resources more easily. As Earth becomes increasingly unstable, the aliens complete their conquest, and humanity's numbers dwindle. Those who remain are used for genetic experiments or research. Our bodies, brains, and memories might be studied, or we could be wiped out altogether in a matter of days. Earth would be left a barren, lifeless rock drifting through space. However, perhaps the aliens aren't as hostile as we think. Maybe they don't want to conquer us, but instead just want to observe us, like we study animals in a zoo. Maybe, over time, they would want to cooperate with humanity and help us grow. Or perhaps, this is just the beginning of a new era for Earth.
The James Webb Telescope, or JWST, is like the ultimate intergalactic paparazzi. It takes pictures of some of the most famous celebrities in the universe. Stars, galaxies, exoplanets, you name it. The James Webb Space Telescope will snap a photo. So if you're a fan of cosmic celebrities, let's take a look at some of these best star-studded photos. The Carina Nebula. The image of the nebula with the beautiful name Carina was published on July 12th. JWST captured a beautiful view of the nebula, located about 7,500 light-years from Earth. Nicknamed the Cosmic Cliffs, it is, in fact, a hotbed of young stars, some of which are several times larger than our Sun. The Carina Nebula is a celestial spectacle located in the southern constellation Carina. It's really huge, approximately 260 light-years across. Massive stars within this nebula are so bright and hot that they create a glowing cloud of gas and dust around them. The Carina Nebula also contains swirling clouds of gas and dust where new stars are being born. The gas collapses under its own weight, becomes hotter and denser, and all this eventually leads to the creation of new stars. However, the Carina Nebula isn't just some peaceful place of star formation. It's the site of some of the most destructive events in the universe, which create massive shockwaves that obliterate everything in their path. Very chaotic and cool. The Stephan's Quintet. This photo was also posted on July 12th. Stephan's Quintet is a visual group of 5 galaxies located at a huge distance from us. About 290 million light-years in the constellation of Pegasus. It's like a cosmic family reunion. All these galaxies are related to each other and interact with each other in some interesting ways. They're pulling and tugging on each other with their gravity, constantly exchanging gas and dust. This interaction is causing some of the galaxies to collide and merge, which can create all sorts of cool effects, like bursts of star formation and supernovae. Thanks to JWST, we were able to see shockwaves, tidal tails, and other amazing details about these galaxies. Their interactions create a stunning sight that we can see in this photo. Jupiter. And here's our old giant friend. This image was published by NASA on August 22nd. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and it's known for its many moons and its beautiful swirling clouds. But it also has a system of rings, just like Saturn, which are made up of tiny particles of dust that orbit the planet. These rings are much smaller and less visible than Saturn's, but they're still pretty neat. Jupiter also has auroras, which are colorful light displays that occur in the planet's atmosphere. They're caused by charged particles from the solar wind interacting with Jupiter's magnetic field, Just like on Earth, they can be seen near the poles of the planet. But these auroras are much brighter and more intense than ours. We can even see this crazy light show from space. And now, we were finally able to capture this dazzling sight. JWST's photo shows the auroras of Jupiter, its rings, and even 2 moons, Amalthea and Adrastea. It's amazing how bright and clear they are on this photo. The Cartwheel Galaxy. NASA released this image on August 2nd. This photo shows us the Cartwheel Galaxy and its companions. The Cartwheel Galaxy gets its name from its shape. It kind of looks like a cartwheel, doesn't it? This is a giant swirling mass of stars, gas, and dust, which is located in the depths of space. It's shaped like a pinwheel with long spiral arms. These arms are held together by the gravity of the central region, which is home to a supermassive black hole. But the Cartwheel Galaxy is a bit different from its spiral relatives. It has formed when a smaller galaxy collided with a larger one, creating a shockwave that rippled through the gas and dust. We'll definitely have to visit this galaxy someday. It's sure to be a wild ride. Spiral Galaxy M74. And here comes another spiral galaxy. NASA released this image on July 22nd. JWST had to peer through thick layers of dust and gas to see this beautiful star cluster. M74 belongs to a special class of spiral galaxies known as the Grand Design Galaxy. This means that its spiral arms are noticeable and clearly outlined. All sorts of amazing things are happening inside of spiral galaxies. Supernovas, stars being born in clouds of gas and dust, and many other cosmic wonders. The glowing gas and dust, the bright stars, and the swirling patterns of the spiral arms make them some of the most striking objects in the universe. Well, we can clearly see it on the example of M74. The Tarantula Nebula. This image of the nebula with a creepy name Tarantula was published on September 6th. The photo covers as much as 340 light-years across. This is a huge distance. Thanks to this image, astronomers have discovered new young stars that were previously shrouded in dust. The Tarantula Nebula is located 160,000 light-years away from us, in the Large Magellanic Cloud. It's the largest and brightest star-forming region in the local group, the galaxies nearest our Milky Way. It's named after its shape, which looks like a bit like the legs of a big tarantula. It's a vast region of space, about 1,000 light-years across, and it's home to some of the most massive and luminous stars in the universe. One of the reasons why the Tarantula Nebula is interesting to scientists is its composition. Its composition is close to the region of stars of the cosmic noon, the so-called state of our universe when it was only a few billion years old. At that time, star formation was at its peak. Thanks to the Webb telescope, we can study this galaxy better and find out what our universe was like at its peak. Neptune's rings. This photo was published on September 21st, 2022. In this photo, we can even see 6 small moons next to the planet, with Triton shining brightly in the upper left corner. You didn't think it was the sun, did you? And yep, Neptune has rings too. They're like the ultimate cosmic accessory. They add a touch of glamour and style to the planet. But unlike some earthly bling, these rings are made of small particles of dust, rather than diamonds and gold. There are 5 known rings around Neptune: the Gall, Leverrier, Lassell, Arago, and Adam's rings. Scientists think that these are relatively young, much younger than our solar system, and much younger than, for example, Uranus's rings. They were probably created when one of Neptune's inner moons got too close to the planet and was torn apart by gravity. We haven't seen Neptune's rings so brightly since Voyager 2 flew past it back in 1989. So this is a great opportunity to take a closer look at these rings. The Pillars of Creation. This photo was published on October 19th. The Pillars of Creation became famous thanks to the Hubble telescope,
but this photo is very lush and much more detailed. These columns, located in the Eagle Nebula, are about 5 light-years tall, which is really, really long. And they look like some majestic rock formations, only much more transparent. Just like a typical Hollywood movie set, they're full of action and special effects. They're home to some of the most dramatic processes in the universe. The gas and dust are collapsing under their own gravity, forming clumps that will eventually become stars. The place is full of intense radiation, jets of high-energy particles, and supernovae. It's like a cosmic version of Survivor. And if this wasn't creepy enough, here's another photo published by NASA on October 19th. They shared it right before Halloween. Here, the pillars resemble an eerie hand reaching for something. Brrr. Anyway, all these photos give us a truly awe-inspiring sight. They remind us of the incredible complexity of the universe and the amazing things that are happening even in the darkest and most remote corners of the cosmos. Let's hope that the James Webb Telescope will continue to amaze us in the future.
You know, many different things have nothing in common at first glance. The appearance of mysterious clouds over Stonehenge and the migration of wolves in Canada, patterns on the wings of a Caribbean butterfly, and strange footprints on the moon's surface. These are all random facts, but people can see connections in these events. Let's see how it can happen and where it can lead to. Imagine reading some crazy article on one of the unreliable sites, forgetting about it, and then beginning to notice small details in the world that might indicate that the information in this article is true. You realize you've learned something unusual, but for some reason, other people don't see it or don't want to see it. You try to tell them, but no one wants to listen to you. And some people even think you've gone mad. Let's stop for a moment and see what kind of article you've read. So, in 2017, one not-so-truthful site published a story about a ship from another planet called Black Knight that had been spying on people for 12,000 years. But not long ago, agents from a secret organization managed to destroy it. Sounds like absolute nonsense or a plot for a cheap sci-fi movie. Of course, you don't believe it. But a few years later, you find a story about Nikola Tesla. Let's fast forward to 1899. The famous scientist was sitting in his laboratory in Colorado Springs conducting radio experiments. Suddenly, his receiver caught a strange radio signal. Then, after a while, another one. The signals came in with the same time interval, as if someone wanted to send a message. Nikola Tesla realized it could be something from extraterrestrial civilizations that were trying to start a dialogue with people using the most universal language, math. He also reported about this event in a magazine at the beginning of the 20th century and added that he hadn't deciphered the message. Okay, now let's forget about it and see what happened next. In 1927, an engineer from Oslo, who was fond of radio devices, was sending signals into open space. He was surprised when, sometime later, the same signals began to return to his receiver. It was as if the signals bounced off something big and echoed back, or something received these messages and then sent them back to the sender to make an acquaintance. The man quickly reported his discovery to scientific journals, and perhaps someone connected this event with Nikola Tesla's words about strange signals from space. All this were just prerequisites for the Black Knight. But the most exciting events started decades later. In the 60s, Time magazine published an article that said that the U.S. had discovered a satellite orbiting Earth and using unknown technology. A couple of years later, Project Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper reported that he had seen a strange object during his spaceflight. But the Black Knight became really famous only in the late 90s, when NASA published a series of images of a mysterious object. During the first flight to the ISS, astronauts noted weirdly shaped somethings and took several pictures. Then someone gathered all the facts, collected all the information about the black satellite, and discovered that it had been flying around our planet for more than 10,000 years. How did they figure it out? People managed to calculate the age of those radio signals that Tesla and the engineer had received. If this is true, The black night appeared much earlier than the Sumerians in ancient Egypt. What if this satellite helped build pyramids and majestic temples? What if it had been watching over our development all this time and transmitting this information to another planet? What if mysterious images ancient people drew depicted the satellite? People began to suspect NASA and other space agencies of hiding information about the black object to prevent panic. And now, after having received all the data about the mysterious satellite, you might begin to suspect that the bizarre article may actually be true. This news is so improbable and ridiculous that no one will believe it. If you want to hide something, hide it in plain sight. And so, together with other enthusiasts, you start hunting for any information about the mysterious ship. You create forums, post photos of unknown objects, and become obsessed with this topic. You really believe in the reality of the Black Night. Moreover, you don't want to question its existence, and people reading your articles do the same. Congratulations! You have become an ideal candidate for creating fake news in the yellow press. Such myths and urban legends seem attractive. The human brain feels pleasure when it finds fake secret information. The feeling of mystery, adrenaline, and shock can cause psychological addiction. That's why the stories about the Black Night are still alive. Mysterious facts seem logical, and people stop seeing information that refutes their theories. The case of the Black Night is no exception. The fans of this black object believe that Nikola Tesla received signals from some space civilization. But for some reason, they don't attach importance to scientific articles, which say that such radio signals could be sent by giant space objects like pulsars. A pulsar is a rotating neutron star emitting powerful electromagnetic radiation. Such radiation is often found in space. These radio waves don't imply the presence of a mind and a sender. The cosmos is full of such signals. The technology for detecting such objects were created in the 60s. Or maybe Tesla's device caught a signal coming from our planet. Besides, the scientists didn't say anything about the Black Night. So why did people connect these two events? That story with the Norwegian engineer is still unexplained. Yes, his signals returned as an echo, but this had nothing to do with the flying object in question either. You might as well say that the satellite somehow influenced the Titanic. There's no logic in such assumptions. Strangely, no one connected the Black Night with the Yeti or the Kraken. Now, let's return to that Times article about a strange object flying around Earth. It also stated it was a fragment of an American reconnaissance satellite. But fans of myths and legends apparently didn't notice this explanation. As for astronaut Cooper, who is said to spot some object during his mission, he actually saw nothing. He even showed a transcript with no reports about the black satellite. However, some believers in other civilizations keep silent about this fact. So, the main proof of the Black Night's existence is the photos taken during the first flight to the ISS. The astronauts noticed this strange object and took pictures, but it wasn't a surprise for them because some part of the ship broke away during some work they did outside. It was a piece of thermal coating. The astronauts sent the photo to NASA, and the space agency assigned it a personal number, as it does with all such objects. A few days later, the Black Night fell out of orbit and burned up in Earth's atmosphere. Almost all this information was recorded in official protocols. One of NASA's engineers, who knew the photographer of the black satellite, explained that those famous photos depicted an ordinary piece of the ship. There was nothing fantastic about it. But the fans of extraterrestrial rockets must have missed all this information. All these myths have long been debunked, and all the false facts have been refuted. But the Black Night continues to live in many people's minds and on the pages of the yellow press. It has become a link between many reports of strange flying objects. Over the years, hundreds of stories have appeared about secret laboratories with extraterrestrial technologies, about NASA hiding secrets, and about creatures from other planets. And many people connected these myths with the black satellite. It has stopped being a real physical object. Now it's a cultural phenomenon. Remember how the main symbol of extraterrestrial civilizations was a flying saucer? It's not trending anymore. Today, the symbol is a black, weirdly shaped stone. Don't be fooled.
Any UFO enthusiast would tell you that the world is teeming with strange occurrences, sightings, government disclosures, and the sudden appearance of unknown craft. In 2021, the CIA declassified thousands of pages of UFO-related documents. And yet, modern-day mysteries are only the latest in a long history of unexplainable phenomena. And one of the most bizarre and chilling tales comes from Japan. It's the legend of the Utsuro Bune, a mysterious otherworldly vessel. This tale suggests that we might not be the first to toy with the idea of visitors from space. The Utsuro Bune arrived as early as 1803. It was described as a ship not of wood or sailcloth, but something alien. Professor Tanaka Kazuo of Gifu University, who has dedicated decades to the study of the Utsuro Bune legend, has pointed out that the mysterious ship of this tale resembles a flying saucer. And it was long before the modern concept of UFOs saw the light of day. So, on February 22nd, 1803, off the coast of Hitachi Province, Japan, the sea seemed to give birth to an enigma. Fishermen spotted a strange vessel. It was unlike anything they had seen before, so they felt pretty unnerved when they dragged it to shore. The craft was over 10 feet tall and nearly 18 feet wide, and it had an uncanny resemblance to a koro, a traditional Japanese incense burner. But it was made not of clay or wood, but strange, lacquered rosewood on its upper half and metal plates on the bottom. As the fishermen peered inside through glass windows, they saw that an unknown script adorned the walls. They could neither read nor understand those symbols. Inside, there were cakes, water, and bed sheets. It was creepy cargo for a vessel that defied logic. And then there was another mystery, a woman. She seemed to be around 20 years old, with skin as pale as porcelain. Her red hair was long and had strands of white. She was dressed in long, smooth garments of unknown material and spoke in a language no one recognized. But the strangest thing was the box she carried. It was a rectangular object that she clutched tightly. She didn't allow anyone to touch it, no matter how persistently they asked. Rumors spread like wildfire. Most people remained cautious. They feared that tampering with such a mystery might invoke dark forces beyond human understanding. So, they chose to let the sea take its prey. According to some sources, the woman was returned to her vessel and sent back into the ocean. Those who had found her were chilled by the encounter. They were afraid that something terrible had been set in motion. In the darkness of the night, one could almost hear whispers that the Utsuro Bune was not the first of its kind to drift ashore, nor would it be the last. Indeed, that Utsuro Bune was not a single, isolated incident. Other accounts exist too, scattered across time and place. In 1698, a woman in a hollow ship was said to have appeared in Toyohashi. She was sent away when no one could understand her language. And in the decades that followed, sightings of Utsuro Bune and other strange vessels continued, each one described as eerily similar, with passengers who spoke no known language and carried strange objects. The legend continues to evolve. In 1977, 2 rare ink prints were discovered. They revealed new details and locations tied to the Utsuro Bune. It seems that this story, this riddle, has never quite been solved. Were those visitors from other worlds, or probably from other planets? Could those legends, with their uncanny similarities, be tied to the same truth? Were the Utsuro Bune vessels real, or were they the product of imagination? We don't have a certain answer yet.
Guess what? Scientists have come up with a cool idea about some cosmic creatures saying hello to us from the center of the Milky Way. Astronomers are all excited about finding extraterrestrial life, so they're focusing their search right at the heart of our galaxy. Imagine stars in outer space, like super cool DJs, spinning their own unique beats. But instead of music, they send out these special signals called radio pulses. It's their way of saying, "Hey, what's up, universe?" These radio pulses are basically little bursts of energy that travel through space. They're not just random noise, though. They have a specific pattern that makes them stand out from all the other sounds out there. It's like a secret code or a special rhythm that only these stars know how to create. Scientists are super curious about these radio pulses because they think that maybe, just maybe, intelligent beings from other planets could be using them too. It's like a galactic language that they could use to talk to each other. So, these clever scientists created special tools and software to listen in on these signals. It's kind of like tuning into your favorite radio station, but instead of music or talk shows, they're trying to catch these cosmic beats. They're hoping to find those unique patterns that could be a sign of other space beings trying to communicate with us. They used a super cool telescope called the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia to collect data and search for these signals. But here's the twist. They didn't find anything this time. No worries though, because their fancy software is lightning fast and it'll help them search even better next time. But why did they pick the center of the Milky Way for this ET life hunt? Well, that's because the galaxy's hearts are packed with stars. In other words, there should be many more planets in there, which means more potential places for life. Plus, if there are super smart life forms at the core of our galaxy, they could easily send signals to lots of planets all at once. Sneaky, huh? This whole thing is super exciting because it's the first time scientists have gone all out to search for these types of signals. They think that using specific frequency ranges and repeating patterns is a really clever way for ET beings to make themselves known. I mean, that combo is so unlikely to happen naturally, right? The best part is that they have this algorithm thingy that can go through a crazy amount of telescope data in just 30 minutes. So, even though they didn't find anything yet, they're confident that this speedy method will help them find evidence of advanced life in the future. How awesome would that be? As you know, humanity has been searching for buddies from outer space for a very long time. This research is just one of many attempts to find them. There's a whole institute dedicated to this mission in the US, SETI, or Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So, naturally, the question arises, why haven't we found anyone yet? It's like we've been scanning the sky forever, hoping to catch a glimpse of advanced civilizations out there. But we get absolutely nothing. All this brings us to the famous Fermi paradox. It's like a big mystery that fuels the hunt for extraterrestrial intelligence. We think that if intelligent life exists, we'd have evidence of it by now. Maybe they're actually beaming out radio signals for us to pick up. Or maybe they're just broadcasting in general and we happen to stumble upon it. They could even have left cool artifacts in our solar system to keep an eye on us or just hang out. Heck, maybe they're building wild mega engineering projects, like gigantic solar panels around their stars. Or they could be getting all fancy and contaminating their stars with heavy metals just to announce their presence. So the search continues. We're not giving up just yet. And hey, maybe instead of just focusing on smart space beings, we should be on the lookout for any kind of life at all. Yeah, I know that a tiny microbe might not be as thrilling as chatting with friendly otherworldly creatures. But think about it. There could be lots of simple life forms out there. We're talking about simple organisms swimming in oceans, mossy creatures holding onto rocks, or the first signs of critters exploring their habitats. They might not be super brainy, but they leave their mark. Plus, they could be way more common and easier to find in our galaxy. Now take Earth, for example. There's a theory that our atmosphere used to have a lot of oxygen floating around. But oxygen is a bit wild and doesn't stick around for too long. It either escapes into space or bonds with other elements, changing into different things like carbon dioxide. Then, around 2 billion years ago, single-celled organisms decided to gobble up carbon dioxide and burp out oxygen, completely changing Earth's atmosphere. Life here transformed the very nature of our planet. And guess what? We can actually detect changes like that on other planets. Here's how. When we look at faraway planets called exoplanets, sometimes they cross in front of their parent stars. As the star's light passes through the planet's atmosphere, it gets all mixed up with different elements and molecules in the air. And you know what happens? The light changes its flavor and color in a special way. So imagine you had a glass of lemonade and you added some fruit juice to it. The lemonade would taste different, right? Well, it's kind of like that with exoplanet atmospheres. When we see the star's light that has traveled through the planet's atmosphere, it gives us clues about what's in the air and how it's different from just the star's light alone. So, by studying these changes in light, we can figure out what kinds of elements and molecules are present in the atmosphere of a faraway planet. It's like a cosmic chemistry experiment, and it helps us learn more about whether there might be life out there. So right now, we can only study the atmospheres of big planets that orbit really close to their stars. But don't worry, NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite is on the case. It's finding lots of interesting planets that we can check out more closely with the super-powered James Webb Space Telescope. This amazing telescope can even sniff out if there's too much carbon dioxide on other worlds. And okay, let's be real, our first contact probably won't be as flashy as in the movies. No exchanging secret codes or figuring out ET customs. We won't be chatting about funky bodies or habits either. Instead, the first hint of life out there will most likely come as a little wiggly line on a graph. It shows us that living creatures have really shaken things up on their home planet. Even simple life forms can have a big impact on their environment and leave behind a noticeable trace. Sure, it might not be as wild as battling space robots or epic adventures, but imagine this. Finding any kind of life beyond Earth would be huge. We'd be calling home, sending messages like, "Guess what? We're not alone in the universe." It would be an historic moment we're celebrating. And by the way, we've already begun to find organic molecules in space. It's not a full-fledged life as we imagine it, but it's still pretty neat. For example, we've already started to find organic compounds on Mars. And there's a teeny tiny chance that Mars once flourished with plants, and maybe even animals. This is just a possibility, but if it turns out to be true, it would show that the presence of living organisms in the universe is not as rare as it seems. The search for life in the universe is like a great detective game. We thought that finding it would be easier because they could do cool stuff like blasting radio signals or transforming their whole solar system. But looks like, in reality, things are much more complicated. Nevertheless, we shouldn't give up. Let's keep searching and hoping that this new study about radio signals brings some results. In 2017, a strange object was spotted in our solar system. It had the shape of a long tube, similar to a pancake. No known asteroid or comet we've seen looks like that. Its exterior was also peculiar. It was at least 10 times more reflective than the average stuff that flies through space, with some saying it had a surface similar to polished metal. When it went past the sun and left our reach, it accelerated faster than what our gravity could account for. At first glance, it was like this thing had a rocket strapped to its back. This unusual visitor even got a special name, Oumuamua. It comes from Hawaiian and translates to scout or visitor from a faraway land. And because of its characteristics, scientists soon began to wonder if this was at last a visit from otherworldly creatures. Before they went full-on with the science fiction suppositions, astronomers gathered the information they were sure about, starting with the fact that Oumuamua must have come from another solar system. There must have been some unfortunate event in its home system that led to its ejection. What they didn't know was that this was a comet or asteroid. They're both celestial objects orbiting a sun, but they have distinct compositions and behaviors. Comets are composed primarily of ice, dust, and rocky material, often referred to as dirty snowballs. When a comet approaches the sun, the heat causes the ice to vaporize, releasing gas and dust particles into space. This creates a bright glowing tail that can extend for millions of miles. Comets generally have elliptical orbits, often taking them from the distant reaches of our solar system closer to the sun. Asteroids, however, are mostly made of rock and metal. In our neighborhood, they are remnants of the early formation of the solar system and are typically found in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Unlike comets, asteroids do not develop tails when they approach the sun, as they have no ice. Their orbits generally follow more circular paths compared to comets. By all accounts, Oumuamua should be a comet, because it seems to come from a different location in the universe. Yet, it doesn't exhibit the typical signs of cometary activity. Oumuamua lacks a tail and does not spew out gas as it passes by, not like me. Even though it behaves like a comet, it looks more like an asteroid. Now, another big question is how scientists even managed to spot Oumuamua in the first place. Considering the vastness of space and time in the galaxy, it's remarkable. Stars have lifetimes spanning millions or billions of years, and the formation of a solar system takes hundreds of millions of years. Even the fastest objects take tens of thousands of years to travel from one star to another. In contrast, humans have only been observing the skies with telescopes for around 400 years, a tiny fraction of cosmic time. And it's only in recent decades, even years, that we've had the technology to detect and track fast-moving, dim objects. Either rocks like these are abundant, or we've been incredibly lucky with our detections, or it's simply wanted to be seen. Now, another question that was asked was where such objects could come from. It's highly unlikely that Oumuamua came from a mature, stable solar system. That's because such systems don't eject enough material to fill up the galaxy. Occasionally, a random rock might get flung out, but it can rarely travel so far. Young systems, however, act differently. In these chaotic environments, collisions, mergers, and migrations are happening everywhere. Plenty of tiny rocks roam around, perfect candidates for ejection. The solar system that kicked Oumuamua out must have had a planet similar to Jupiter. Its massive size and gravity could influence other objects in the system, causing potential ejections. But not all solar systems develop Jupiter-sized planets. Often massive planets end up close to their stars, becoming hotter versions of Jupiter. These planets, snugly orbiting a sun, are less likely to eject debris. Now, Neptune-like planets may play a role too. While not as massive as Jupiter, they tend to call the outer regions of solar systems their home. Our solar system has the Kuiper Belt, a reservoir of comets in its outer reaches. During a solar system's early stages, interactions between Neptune-like planets and debris are common. Finding Neptune-like planets in other systems has been challenging, though. Our methods for detecting exoplanets work better for massive objects close to their stars, making it difficult to spot Neptune counterparts farther out. Oumuamua was also linked to a peculiar theory about how life came to be in the universe – panspermia. Now that's a hypothesis that suggests that life exists throughout the universe and can be distributed between planets by various means, such as asteroids, comets, or even spacecraft. It says that life must have originated in one location in the universe and then spread to other celestial bodies. Fans of the panspermia theory have suggested that such interstellar objects could potentially carry tiny microbes, those building blocks of life between star systems. If such objects were to impact a planet or a moon, they could transfer these materials and seed the celestial body with life. For now, there is no evidence to support the theory that this comet in particular has transported life between star systems. After years of research, the overall consensus became that Oumuamua was indeed a comet. The reason why it moves so strangely is because it might have frozen hydrogen on its surface that reacts when touched by sunlight. The closer it got to our sun, the faster it became, releasing that hydrogen and also changing its path through our solar system. Its color also supports this theory. It's red, which might mean it's been hit by cosmic rays for a long time. The longer it was touched by those rays, the more hydrogen it gathered in the process. But since they can't be completely sure, astronomers have a plan to follow this visitor. One idea is to send a mission to check it out. It's already far away from us, but it may not be too late just yet. We may be able to send a probe fast enough to catch up with the comet. The plan was named Project Lyra and aims to use the Earth's orbit and that of Jupiter to bounce out a probe far enough to reach Oumuamua. If it works, it will be the fastest space device we've sent out in the universe. One potential trajectory of the space probe involves the gravitational pull of our planet and that of Jupiter as a lasso effect, but not Ted Lasso. The probe will leave our planet and re-enter Earth's orbit before sending it to meet with Jupiter's pull. It will be sent back near our planet a second time, where it will be ejected with enough force to reach the comet. Project Lyra also aims to follow a second faraway visitor named Borisov. This one was discovered by an amateur astronomer and now bears his name. What's interesting about it is that it's, well, spotless. Similar to our experience with Oumuamua, we haven't seen anything like Borisov before either. Studies of the light coming from its cloud of dust and gas show it's very clean compared to other space objects. After it was first noticed in August 2019, astronomers studied its path through our solar system and concluded it came from another star too. But Borisov gave us more time to study it because we spotted it earlier in its journey through our neighborhood. Researchers used advanced telescopes to look at the dust coming off Borisov. They found it's throwing off over 400 pounds of dust every second. They also found Borisov has more carbon monoxide than comets from our solar system usually do. But the amount isn't the same everywhere on the comet. This tells us the space object probably started forming near its home star before moving away, maybe because of larger planets in its system. The light from Borisov is way more polarized than light from other comets we've seen, and its cloud is super smooth. This tells us Borisov has never interacted with another star.
One of the biggest questions that has been torturing the minds of astronomers and common folks is, why haven't we found aliens yet? You'd think with a universe so big and filled with tons of stars and planets, we'd have already bumped into some extraterrestrial neighbors by now. This question was first asked by famous physicist Enrico Fermi during a lunch with his fellow scientists. They were chatting about UFO sightings and aliens, and suddenly Fermi asked, "Where is everyone?" It seemed like a casual comment, but it sparked a huge debate. If the universe is packed with stars, planets, and the possibility of alien life, how come we haven't seen any yet? This discussion gave birth to something we now call the Fermi paradox. It goes like this. Based on what we know, there should be advanced alien civilizations out there, perhaps even many of them. They'd likely have technology that could allow them to travel across space or at least send us signals to let us know they're there. But here's the kicker. Despite all of our technology and all the searching we've done, we haven't found a single shred of solid proof that these advanced civilizations do exist. So where are they? Over the years, a lot of theories trying to explain this paradox have seen the light of day. Let's talk about some of the most interesting ones. The rare Earth hypothesis claims that Earth might just be super rare, and planets like ours, with life, are incredibly uncommon. In this case, we could be the only planet in the Milky Way harboring life, or at least intelligent life. We might also be the first intelligent civilization in our galaxy to reach this level of development. In other words, we could be pioneers, however unbelievable it may sound. At the same time, it's not very scientific to rely on a rare chance. Some people think that maybe advanced civilizations were once here, but left the Milky Way. Perhaps they developed the technology of interstellar travel, enabling them to fly between galaxies. Or they could use other exotic ways, like wormholes, hypothetical structures connecting disparate points in space-time. Maybe they found more interesting and pleasant places to live, far away from us. One sad possibility is that when a civilization becomes too advanced, it ends up destroying itself. Whether through war, environmental destruction, or something else, it could be that most civilizations don't last long enough to reach out to others. Now, imagine an advanced civilization being wiped out by a disease before they could even start exploring stars. In other words, it's possible that civilizations just don't survive long enough to meet others. Another hypothesis, not very flattering to us. What if these aliens are using technology that we just don't understand? Maybe they're communicating in ways we can't detect, like using signals beyond our current understanding of physics. Scientists are discussing such possibilities, but haven't found any yet. Aliens might also be intentionally avoiding us. They could be out there but staying silent, not so eager to reveal themselves until we're ready. Speaking of being ready, Some people think that aliens could be waiting for us to reach a certain level of development before they make contact. Maybe they don't want to interfere with our growth until we're more advanced. Advanced civilizations could also go into virtual realities. And if they can live in digital worlds, they might stop caring about exploring the physical universe. Why bother? Another wild idea is that some civilizations might go into a type of hibernation, waiting for the universe to cool down, because it might be more energy efficient to do so. And last but not least, there's this creepy possibility that our entire universe is a computer simulation, and aliens are hidden from us on purpose. It's something like a video game that doesn't reveal all its secrets at once until you get to the next level. Now let's talk about the odds of life out there. We know that in just our galaxy, the Milky Way, there are probably around 20 billion planets that are roughly Earth-sized and located in the habitable zone, which means they're just the right distance from their stars to have liquid water. But how many of these planets actually have life? Could it be most of them, just a few, or almost none? And out of the planets that do have life, how many host intelligent beings with technology? In the 1960s, a scientist named Dr. Frank Drake tried to estimate the number of civilizations in our galaxy that could contact us. He came up with a famous equation, later called the Drake equation. It looks complicated, but the idea is pretty simple. It helps us calculate the number of intelligent civilizations based on things like how many stars are born each year, how many have planets, how many planets could support life, and how long a civilization might last. Here's what it looks like. Let's look into this equation in more detail. N is the number of intelligent civilizations that could contact us. R is the rate of star formation in our galaxy. FP is the fraction of stars with planets. NE is the average number of planets per star that could support life. FL is the fraction of those planets where life actually develops. Fi is the fraction where intelligent life arises. FC is the fraction of civilizations that can and want to communicate. L is how long these civilizations last before they disappear. The problem is, we don't know the exact values for most of these factors. So when we plug in numbers, which we know with large errors, we get answers with very large errors too. Depending on the values, the number of civilizations in our galaxy could be anywhere from almost 0 to tens of thousands. Right now, the best estimate we can come up with gives us a very small number, close to 0. In other words, even though our galaxy is huge, it's possible we're all alone here. Or nearly alone. One big reason we haven't met any aliens yet is that even if they do exist, we might not be able to visit them, at least not with our current technology. The speed of light is a hard limit in physics, meaning nothing can travel faster than it. This makes interstellar travel super slow. The situation could be better if there were exotic ways of travel, such as wormholes and warp drives. One day, they may turn out to be real, but so far, there is little hope for that. Even if we can't meet aliens face to face, there are still ways we might discover them. One of the biggest projects is called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. SETI scientists use huge telescopes to listen for radio signals from distant planets. If an alien civilization is sending out signals, we might be able to pick them up. And if we have a very powerful telescope, we might use it to take super detailed pictures of distant planets, maybe even Earth-like ones, hundreds of light years away. This could give us a whole new way to search for signs of alien life. In any case, even though we haven't found aliens yet, the search is far from over. Whether it's through new technology, better understanding of physics, or just listening to the stars, we might one day find that we're not alone in the universe. Until then, the question, where is everyone, keeps sparking curiosity.
Some people, like the Andaman Islanders, that's a community living in the Gulf of Bengal, see them as burning torches thrown into the air by forest spirits. Others, like some Australian Aborigines, think they're flaming sticks ridden by shamans. If you ask an astronomer, though, they'll tell you that a comet is a large object made of dust and ice that orbits the sun. Arguably one of the most famous space objects of this kind is Halley's Comet. It has left a great impact on our history and understanding of these mysterious falling stars. When this comet passed Earth in August of 1835, for example, it was blamed for the New York City fire that kept going for several nights. At the same time, the Seminole Indians in Florida saw the comet's long tail and believed it marked the day they would lose their independence. This comet came back in 1910, and people yet again saw it as a sign of bad luck. In Chicago, people bent over backward to secure their windows to protect themselves from the comet's dangerous tail. Others bought all sorts of gadgets, like umbrellas or masks protecting from comets. But what's so intriguing about this space body? How come it just pops up around Earth every once in a while? And, most importantly, is it really dangerous? Halley's is what astronomers call a periodic comet. It visits us every 75 years or so. On rare occasions, some lucky people get to see it twice in their lifetime. It last passed Earth in 1986, and it is expected to come back in 2061. Despite this scheduled return, the comet's orbit can't be predicted with precision. That's partly because of the chemical processes happening inside the comet. Halley's orbit may also change due to random interactions with other planets and space objects in our solar system. Its official title is 1P/Halley, and it's named after English astronomer Edmund Halley. He was the one who studied the reports of a comet nearing Earth in 1531, 1607, and 1682. Based on his calculations, he concluded that these three occurrences had been, in fact, the same comet, returning over and over again. He also predicted its return in 1758. Halley's discovery also pointed out that some comets, like this one, orbited the Sun, but their journey was not circular. If you look at it in 2D, Halley's orbit looks like an elliptical wire dangling from the Sun. Sadly, Halley didn't live to see the comet's correctly predicted return, but it was named after him. According to the European Space Agency, the first sighting of Halley's comet dates back to March 30th, 239 BCE. Asian astronomers noted it down in the Sheqi and Wenxian Thungkao chronicles. But another study claims that we might have first noticed it even earlier than that, during the times of the ancient Greeks. Writings from that period reported a huge meteor that landed in northern Greece, leaving the local population perplexed. It soon became one of the ancient world's most popular tourist attractions. But the authors also noticed a comet in the sky at the time the meteor landed. They also reported the fact that the unusual space object had remained in the sky for about 75 days. Shakespeare himself seems to have written about this comet in his play Julius Caesar around the year 1600. In this work, he included a now famous phrase speaking of comets as unusual signs, saying, "The heavens themselves blaze forth." It wasn't the last time famous writers felt a certain connection with this object. Writer Mark Twain even said in 1909, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it." Surprisingly, Twain passed away on April 21st, 1910, one day after Halley's had emerged from behind the far side of the Sun. We got a better look at the comet when it last passed us in 1986. Several spacecraft were sent toward Halley's to take samples of the comet's composition. This fleet of spaceships, dubbed the Halley Armada, flew nearby, one of them taking several pictures of the comet's core for the first time in history. We also had much better telescopes to look at the comet as it swung by our planet this time. Based on current studies, there's little to no chance that Halley's Comet could actually pose any danger to our planet. Most of the bad things associated with the comet were just fabrications. Even better, comets, in general, may have made life on Earth possible. Specialists believe that early in our planet's history, collisions with comets brought a significant amount of water here, which helped to form our oceans. These space objects may have also gifted us organic material necessary for the formation of life. Don't confuse comets with asteroids, though. Unlike asteroids, which are small rocky space bodies also orbiting the Sun, Comets are mostly made up of frozen ammonia, methane, or water. They contain only small amounts of rocky material. Because of their composition, comets are sometimes nicknamed dirty snowballs. Comets are made of 4 parts: a nucleus, a coma, a dust tail, and an ion tail. But their nucleus makes up most of their total mass. There are over 3,000 comets that we know of, but astronomers think there may be up to 1 billion of them in our solar system. A comet that is bright enough to be visible from Earth without the help of a telescope is called a great comet. Approximately 1 great comet can be seen every 10 years or so. People have noticed other comets for millennia. However, scientists have concluded that since comets shed a lot of material each time they orbit close to the Sun, their lifespan may be only thousands of years. If you compare that to the age of the solar system, which is 4.6 billion years, it's a relatively small number. Since these space bodies are still present in the solar system today, there must be a source of comets somewhere out there. Otherwise, all comets would have disappeared a long time ago. Another famous comet is named Hale-Bopp. It came very close to Earth in January 1997. The last time it was seen near our planet before that was during the Bronze Age, back in 2000 BCE. This comet is much larger and more spectacular than Halley's. Its nucleus stretches for up to 24 miles in diameter and can be seen from the surface of our planet with the unaided eye. Comet Borrelly was the second comet to be studied up close by a spacecraft. NASA's Deep Space One approached it in 2001 and gave scientists a detailed report of the comet's black core. This comet is surprisingly lopsided, but the reason for its unusual shape is still up for debate. Halley's comet appears to have formed in the Oort cloud at the outer edges of the solar system, but Borrelly is said to come from an icy cloud of rocks beyond Neptune, which is called the Kuiper Belt. Comet Hyakutake gave us quite the show when it passed just 9.3 million miles from Earth in March 1996. It looked like an ice blue splash with a faint gas tail. This comet amazed astronomers too, as it produced X-rays 100 times more intense than scientists had predicted. A spaceship called Ulysses passed through Hyakutake's tail in May 1996, reporting that it was at least 350 million miles long. That's double the size of any other known comet's tail. The comet Wild 2 was examined by NASA's Stardust spacecraft back in 2004. The probe managed to fly within 147 miles of the nucleus of Wild 2, giving us some of the best comet pictures to date. It was also the first time we got samples of dust particles from a comet. The precious cargo came back to Earth in January 2006. Its aim was to shed light on the conditions under which Wild 2, and the solar system for that matter, formed those billions of years ago. Wild 2 is about 3 miles in diameter and covered with craters and cliffs.
It was early morning on the 30th of June, 1908, when a terrifying explosion occurred in the sky above the stony Tunguska River in Siberia. It left 80 million trees flattened, and the affected territory was more than 820 square miles. Thousands of people within 900 miles experienced the Tunguska event, and later, researchers managed to collect more than 700 accounts. Most reports mentioned a fireball in the sky. It was glowing like a second sun. People also spoke about a series of explosions that produced frightful sounds. Sometime later, the ground started shaking as, according to some witnesses, the Earth opened wide and everything started falling into the abyss. Was that what really happened? Scientists aren't 100% sure. The indigenous Yakuts in Evenks, for example, believe that a deity sent the fireball to get rid of our world for good. At the same time, numerous meteorological stations in Europe recorded both atmospheric and seismic waves. Days later, weird phenomena were observed in the sky over vast territories, reaching Europe. Those were glowing clouds, colorful sunsets, and even a weak luminescence at night. Some reports mention a blue tube in the sky. International newspapers were speculating about a powerful volcanic eruption. Some scientists thought it could have been a cosmic impact. Unfortunately, it was hard to access the region where the event had occurred, which prevented further scientific investigation. In 1921, mineralogist Leonid Kulik got interested in this story after reading a newspaper article that claimed that passengers of the Trans-Siberian Railway had seen the impact. There were even claims that some of them had managed to touch the still-hot meteorite. Kulik organized an expedition and traveled to the city of Kansk. There, he studied the reports about the event, everything he could find in the local archives. It turned out that the story about the train passengers seeing and encountering the meteorite was a hoax. But Kulik and his team didn't give up. They traveled to the region, following first the Angara River and then the Tunguska River. Then, on April 13, 1927, the researchers discovered a huge area littered with rotting logs. Some extremely powerful force must have flattened them. Shockingly, only at the epicenter of the blast, in the forest of Tunguska, some charred trees were still standing. But the most baffling thing was that even after exploring the entire area, the team didn't find an impact crater or any meteor material. So, in the fall of 1927, Kulik's report was published in different national and international papers. The scientists suggested that an iron meteorite could have exploded in the atmosphere, causing the observed powerful explosion and following devastation. He explained the lack of an identifiable impact site by the swampy ground. The soil could have been too soft for the impact crater to remain. So, despite the lack of physical evidence, Kulik called the event Filimonovo meteorite. Filimonovo was the railway station where people saw an ultra-bright light in the sky. Only sometime later did the incident get its name, Tunguska event. Even though this event is quite popular all over the world, scientific data describing it is sparse. Since 1928, more than 40 expeditions have explored the site. They took samples from the soil, rocks, trees, but the results were always ambiguous. Some seismic and air pressure wave registrations, which were recorded right after the blast, are still intact. Plus, about 30 years after the event, researchers mapped the area of the destroyed forest. But since there's almost no hard data, like a crater or a meteorite, and the accounts of the incident are conflicting, many theories of widely varying plausibility have appeared over the years. Among them, there was an asteroid skimming the atmosphere of our planet, and a primordial black hole passing directly through it. Wait, what? At the current age of the universe, black holes form when huge stars run out of fuel and collapse under their own gravity. In other words, there's a limit to how small a black hole can be in the current universe. It has to form from substantial amounts of mass gathered in one small region of space. Plus, it can only occur to stars around 20 times the mass of our Sun and larger. But primordial black holes are something else altogether. Their existence hasn't been proven yet, so they remain purely hypothetical. Primordial black holes could have formed in the first few seconds of the existence of the universe. At that stage of its development, all the stuff that would later continue to create stars and galaxies were packed together much more tightly. At that time, pockets of hot material might have been dense enough to form various black holes, from giant to teeny-tiny ones. The masses of such holes could have been 100,000 times smaller than that of a paperclip. At the same time, these holes could have reached a mass of 100,000 solar masses. Soon after, the universe started to expand very quickly, and it also cooled down. This put an end to the conditions favorable for the formation of primordial black holes. Unfortunately, we haven't detected any such holes yet. But if they formed right after the birth of the universe, it's possible that they might still be somewhere out there. And there's an idea that primordial black holes, smaller than an atom, might be passing through Earth every day without harming our home planet. A larger primordial hole might also visit us every once in a while, every 1,000 years or so. After learning more about the Tunguska event, a team of physicists published an article in a 1973 Nature paper that the event itself could have been caused by a primordial black hole passing through the planet. The researchers stated that a black hole with the mass of a large asteroid could explain the lack of a crater or any other physical evidence of the impact. Blue light noticed by witnesses seemed to fit this theory too. According to the team, in such a case, Most of the radiation from the shock front would be in the ultraviolet vacuum. It would then get absorbed and re-radiated at longer wavelengths. There would be just a bit of hard X radiation, and the accompanying plasma column would look deep blue. Admittedly, it's a very unusual theory. But the team also suggested a way their idea could be tested by looking for signs of an exit wound on the other side of the planet. You see, if a black hole entered Earth, the rigidity of the rock wouldn't allow for any underground shockwave. Because of the black hole's high velocity, and because it would only lose a tiny fraction of its energy while passing through our planet, it would follow almost a straight line through the planet. Such a potential exit could provide a check for the entire hypothesis. The team also suggested looking for shock waves and disturbances in the ocean on the opposite side of the world. But there's a problem with the idea of a black hole passing through Earth. Such a black hole could settle into the core of our planet, and its gravity would allow the black hole to start feeding, eventually devouring our entire world. Plus, there would be a lot of heating. You see, during its passage through Earth, the black hole would gather a lot of matter, and this process would produce a lot of heat. To put it simply, the impact of an asteroid-mass black hole would release almost the same amount of energy as the impact of an asteroid, like the one that destroyed dinosaurs. Luckily, according to the existing calculations, the chances of a black hole settling in the core of our planet are minimal, since black holes are just too fast to do so. In any case, the Tunguska event being a black hole passing through our planet is certainly an exciting idea, but no evidence that could prove it has been found yet. Plus, we still don't know whether primordial black holes exist at all. Yep, it's something to ponder.
A shocking theory claims that mysterious comet Oumuamua might be a von Neumann probe, an alien spacecraft with broken engines tumbling through our solar system. It sounds extremely unsettling, but first things first, what is a von Neumann probe? Mathematician John von Neumann suggested the concept of self-replicating spacecraft that could in some ways mimic the features of living organisms or viruses. People started to refer to such hypothetical spacecraft as von Neumann probes. Von Neumann was sure that using self-replicating spacecraft would be the most effective way to perform large-scale mining operations, like mining asteroid belts or moons. The creators of such probes could take advantage of their exponential growth. Hypothetically, a self-replicating spaceship could be sent to a neighboring planetary system and look for raw materials there. Such materials could be extracted from moons, gas giant planets, asteroids, and the likes. Using these materials, the probe could make replicas of itself. The replicas could then be sent to other planetary systems, and the original probe could pursue its main purpose within its parent star system. This pattern sure does repeat the reproduction patterns of bacteria. That's why some experts think that von Neumann machines could be considered a form of life. There's also a theory that a self-replicating spacecraft could spread throughout a galaxy the size of the Milky Way in just 500,000 years, even if it used conventional theoretical methods of interstellar travel. In other words, it wouldn't even need to employ exotic faster-than-light propulsion. In 1981, mathematical physicist and cosmologist Frank Tipler argued that extraterrestrial intelligence couldn't exist because people had never observed von Neumann probes. Even if we take a moderate rate of replication, such probes should already be common throughout space. So, it's really weird that we haven't come across any of those yet. It might only mean that extraterrestrial intelligence doesn't exist. A response to Tipler's arguments came from astronomers Carl Sagan and William Newman. They pointed out that Tipler might have underestimated the rate of replication, and von Neumann probes should have already started consuming most of the mass in our galaxy. Therefore, any intelligent race would avoid designing von Neumann probes in the first place and try to destroy any probes as soon as they found them. Another objection to the prevalence of von Neumann probes is that civilizations that could potentially design such devices have an extremely high probability of self-destruction before producing such a machine. In any case, the assumed capacity of von Neumann probes is unlikely in reality. But then, how about Oumuamua? These days, scientists are using high-tech scanners to examine a huge, cigar-shaped comet, which might or might not be an alien probe. One idea is that it's an extraterrestrial civilization spacecraft, with broken engines wandering through our solar system. If that's the case, the object could easily be a von Neumann probe. Dr. Jason Wright from Penn State University thinks that a broken alien spaceship could move in exactly the same way as Oumuamua. Rather than moving through space like other space rocks, the 1,318-foot-long, 118-foot-wide space traveler is tumbling through the solar system. At the moment, it's traveling at a speed of around 200,000 miles per hour. In his blog, Dr. Wright says that if such derelict craft were not traveling fast enough to escape the galaxy, they could thermalize with the stars and end up drifting around like an interstellar asteroid or comet. They wouldn't have attitude control anymore and would eventually start tumbling. And it could distinguish them from regular interstellar asteroids. Plus, even though their propulsion was broken, their radio transmitters could work just fine. In any case, so far, it's just a theory, and further research is needed. What do you think? Is Oumuamua just a space rock or an alien space probe?
A sound from space? When up there in space, no one can hear you talk, laugh, or scream. Or at least that's how the saying goes. People can't hear anything in space due to its condition. Still, if you have the right conditions, like the hot gas that surrounds the black hole located at the center of Perseus, space can be quite noisy. That's the galaxy cluster 250 million light-years away from us. Researchers caught an actual sound of space, waves rippling through the plasma gas in Perseus. They first realized black holes generate acoustic signals in 2003, but this is the first time they brought these signals to the human ear, and wow, this sounds terrifying. Canyons filled with liquid on Titan. Almost a decade ago, NASA spacecraft discovered deep canyons on one of Saturn's moons, Titan. They're about a half-mile wide and they kinda look like the Grand Canyon, but they're filled with liquid hydrocarbon. This was the first time we came upon evidence of canyons and channels filled with liquid on Titan. Our solar system is full of small particles and bigger rocks that circle the sun, the same way as planets. Sometimes it happens, some of them change trajectory, which is why falling pieces of debris strike the planets. Most of the meteorites and comets originate in our solar system. Some from the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars, while others come from the Kuiper belt, that's located beyond the orbit of Neptune. But 5 years ago, scientists found something unusual, a red, elongated floating space rock called Oumuamua. It could be more than 3,000 feet long, but its size still wasn't the most impressive part. It was the first interstellar object we saw passing through our solar system. It means it formed and came outside of it. It was traveling way faster than asteroids and comets from within our solar system. No one knows where this weird object came from. Many, many years ago, when it started its journey and sailed away from its parent planetary system, the stars weren't in the same position as they are today, so it's hard to pinpoint where Oumuamua ran away from. The rock could have been on its journey for billions of years. Solar termination events. Our sun is not just a flaming ball of gas we see in the sky. It's actually a pretty complex network of towering plasma fountains, magnetic fields, and blobs of unusual matter 500 times bigger than our own planet. And then there are solar termination events. When it comes to its activity, our sun goes through a natural cycle of troughs and peaks. Approximately every 11 years comes the time when the sun is more active than in other periods of the process. As the cycle goes to the end, there are fewer emissions and sunspots. That's because magnetic fields are weakened at that point, and they collide along the sun's equator. This results in enormous tsunamis of plasma. They pass across the solar surface for weeks. These are the most powerful storms in our solar system. They twist, snap, and lash out into space and seriously affect our power grid.
As they wake, large spots start to form on the sun, close to strong magnetic field lines. Usually, that's when the cycle begins all over again. No one still knows why exactly they form. Also, we're not sure if this only happens at the end of the cycle, and knowing more about this could help us prepare for raging solar storms better. Tsunamis on Mars. It appears the shorelines under the Martian surface formed because of two enormous tsunamis. Mars has something that's probably the longest landslide in our entire solar system. The rocks rolled down the mountain probably billions of years ago. They fell into the water and caused a gigantic wave that rushed across the Martian landscape. As the tsunami was getting bigger, the rocks scraped all along the solid ground beneath them, and these sandy waves left their prints on the shoreline, not so close to Olympus Mons. That means it's possible the waves traveled a couple of hundred miles. This supports the theory that Mars once had an ocean hidden below its dry desert surface. Sure, Oumuamua was cool because it was the first object we've seen coming from outside of our solar system. It's past us now, so it's not possible to study it anymore. But something else came from outside our solar system after Oumuamua. A comet called Borisov. It came with a tail over 100,000 miles long. Teams got the first images of Borisov in 2019. A bright white glow was surrounding it. And that was one of the first signs where scientists realized this comet wasn't from our solar system. They tried to collect as much information as possible because they remembered how quickly Oumuamua got away. Borisov came from a freezing place as cold as the Kuiper Belt. One theory says it may have originated around a red dwarf, which is the most common type of star in our galaxy, the Milky Way. But unfortunately, Borisov was also very fast. So fast that they only managed to see it a couple of weeks before it passed by our planet. By now, it's almost out of our solar system. Finding new planets is always such a thrill, just like it was in 2017, when a group of researchers discovered Super Earth. It's an exoplanet, which means it orbits a star outside of our solar system. This one has a mass almost 3 times that of our planet, and it's only 21 light-years away. It orbits M dwarf star, and it manages to make a full circle in only 2 weeks. So that's how long the year is on this planet. It's closer to its star than Mercury is to our sun. But M dwarf stars are cooler than our sun, so it's possible this planet still has water. Super Earth is generally a term for planets that are lighter than ice giants such as Uranus and Neptune, yet more massive than Earth. They can be made of rock, gas, or even a combination of both. The one they discovered in 2017 is especially interesting because this type of planet can also hold some form of life. Leroy Chiao is an astronaut who commanded the International Space Station back in 2005. This one time, during his final spacewalk, some pretty unusual lights caught his eye. It looked like 5 lights flying near him. They were in the shape of a pyramid, since one light was a bit further ahead. Chiao immediately called one of the crew members who was also out there at the same time, taking a spacewalk. He asked his colleague if he saw the flying objects, but apparently he didn't. Researchers were intrigued by this story, so they examined satellite images to see if that was the thing Chiao saw. One of the options was that Chiao had seen fishing boats off the coast of South America. With bright lights, they wanted to attract squid. But since it was twilight time, the rotation of our planet may have made them appear to fly by. Neutron stars slamming into each other. After a massive star comes to its end in a strong supernova explosion, its core falls apart. Then it forms the densest form of matter we know about in the whole universe, called a neutron star. In only a couple of the first few seconds after a regular star begins transforming into a neutron star, the energy there is equal to the total amount of light all stars in the universe emit. At least the part we can observe, which is still a lot. It's hard to determine their real size, but picture it this way.
the length of Manhattan with 1.5 times the mass of the Sun. If a star here were any denser, it would just collapse and form a black hole. Scientists captured 2 of these stars colliding a couple of years ago, and such impacts are extremely powerful. They create gravitational waves that lead to a ripple in space-time, but they produce heavy elements like platinum and gold.
If an asteroid like Apophis hits Earth, we will be destroyed. Massive earthquakes will strike, and tsunamis will flood everything. Apophis is a billion-year-old celestial body that has been in the solar system since its inception. So you might be thinking, well, how likely is it that this giant space stone will collide with our planet in 2029? Well, let's find out, shall we? Apophis is a big, bad asteroid discovered in 2004 by the Kitt Peak National Observatory in Arizona. Since then, it has proudly held the title of one of the most dangerous asteroids ever located. It's around 1,100 feet wide, which is a bit bigger than the Empire State Building and the Eiffel Tower. Because of how scary it is, it was named Apophis, like the Egyptian immortal creature that was considered to bring eternal darkness and destruction to Earth. Oh boy. In 2021, researchers had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study this floating rock when it passed near our planet, and we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, some scientists say that there is a small chance of Apophis hitting the Earth on Friday, April 13, 2029. The Yarkovsky effect is to blame for this, since it can slightly nudge this space rock towards Earth. This effect originates from the uneven emission of thermal photons from a rotating celestial object, resulting in a fascinating force exerted upon it in space. These emitted photons possess momentum and play a pivotal role in shaping the dynamics of the body. The asteroid has 2 sides, light and dark, just like the Moon. The light side faces the Sun and is warmer than the dark side. But the thing also turns, so the sides constantly change direction and temperature. This change could be detrimental because it slightly pushes Apophis toward Earth. Unfortunately, nobody knows how the Yarkovsky effect will influence the asteroid's path. On the other hand, on the asteroid's last flyby of Earth in 2021, astronomers used radar to take accurate measurements of its trajectory and confidently concluded Apophis will safely miss Earth in 2029 by about 20,000 miles and won't bother us again for at least 100 years. Now, generally speaking, every 8,000 years, our planet is hit by a falling star that has similar dimensions to those of Apophis. The last time we were hit by a slightly smaller meteor was in 2013. A new spacecraft developed by NASA called the OSIRIS-REx was launched in 2016 to collect samples from another slightly less terrifying celestial body called Bennu. 4 years later, it finally arrived at the thing, got some samples, quickly said goodbye to Bennu, and started traveling back towards Earth. The samples were safely stored in a capsule dropped in Utah. So far, this has been the most significant sample ever taken from an asteroid. After the delivery, the spacecraft didn't waste any time and started chasing Apophis. Now, OSIRIS-REx has been renamed to OSIRIS-APEX, and is currently playing tag with Apophis. With some luck, on the 2nd of April 2029, when the asteroid zips close by Earth, the spacecraft will reach Apophis and land on it. It will stay on Apophis for 18 months, collecting valuable information and taking thousands of pictures. The asteroid will be monitored with the help of powerful telescopes. At some point, Apophis will get too close to the Sun, and then all the monitoring work will be on Osiris's apex back. If you live in Europe, West Asia, or Africa, you're one of those lucky people who will have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see Apophis with the unaided eye. It'll be visible in the sky in these regions in 2029, and those who have telescopes will be able to spot it once again in 2036. OSIRIS-APEX will experience some problems because the asteroid has a thick crust, and the spacecraft won't be able to collect data as easily as it did with Bennu. OSIRIS-APEX has a unique thruster that will blow all the dust from Apophis while landing. This will be a perfect chance to analyze the surface of the asteroid to see what it's made of. The craft will spend 1.5 years mapping the asteroid, trying to detect changes in its shape. All this research will show how the celestial body is likely to move so we can better design plans to protect Earth from such things. In 2025, NASA is also going to launch the mission Apophis Pathfinder, and it will be the first spaceship to ever touch this asteroid. It will land approximately a year after its launch. Also, NASA has proposed sending a swarm of tiny craft into space to help humanity develop effective protective tactics against asteroid strikes. We know that Apophis originated in the primary asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. In the past million years, this celestial body has changed its path because of the considerable influence of Jupiter's gravitation. Now it seems like it favors the Sun more, meaning this asteroid will come very close to Earth. That's why it's classified as a near-Earth celestial body. A lot of tests and research have been done to find a way to deal with asteroids. Some solutions include drilling and detonating the space body from inside, or testing new technologies, like attaching rockets to it and trying to steer it away from Earth. We can also hit it with something moving at high speeds to make it change its course. Apophis is an S-type asteroid made of rocks and minerals like iron and nickel, and is shaped like a peanut. It can tell us a lot about the past and possibly the future. Sampling this space object could reveal how life on Earth began and how plants appeared. There are many theories that suggest that water arrived on our planet on an asteroid or a comet. Asteroids are like priceless time capsules. Unlike rocks on Earth, which have undergone thousands of changes, like erosion, most celestial bodies are still intact and much easier to study. When meteors fall on Earth, they get covered in debris that's impossible to clean. That's why studying Apophis while it's still in space is so important. Also, some asteroids are made of precious metals like platinum. Right now, we have a high demand for metals that we use in production, and mining metals on Earth is quite tricky. Just one large meteor might have iron, nickel, gold, and platinum that could last us millions of years. If Apophis has this amount of metals, well, we'd want to break it down and bring it back to Earth. One space rock could be worth quadrillions of dollars, making space mining highly profitable. And still, it would cost us more to get it back to Earth than to dig up these materials here. As technology progresses and new kinds of rockets are developed, this might become possible at some point. So, even though we're safe for the next 100 years from Apophis, you probably still want to see what would happen if something like it did impact. Come on, sure you do. Well, first let me tell you, you'll hear the sound of the collision and know what's happened even if you're miles away. You should leave your house or apartment immediately. Shortly after the impact, massive earthquakes will strike, and many tall buildings will fall. So, staying away from cities might be your best option if you have a choice. But don't escape by car. There will be massive traffic jams, and everyone will panic. Going on foot or by bike is your best option in this scenario. A prime way of transportation will be traveling by plane, so if you've always wanted to get that pilot license, now you've got a good excuse. If you have time, take along extra snacks and water, and an extra pair of socks. It's nice to live by the ocean or the sea, but in this scenario, it's the worst place to be, because giant tsunami waves will hit coastlines after the impact. If you live far away from the impact area, the tsunami might take 30 hours to arrive. You'll have a bit of time to prepare. The very first known interstellar object, or ISO, to pay a visit to our solar system was a rocky, elongated interloper with a slightly reddish hue. It was spotted in 2017 and was dubbed with the Hawaiian name Oumuamua. It was almost 10 times as long as it was wide, and it was extremely unusual. Objects in our solar system are rarely shaped this way, so astronomers hoped it could provide some clues into how other star systems form and function. For hundreds of millions of years, longer than I've been around, This bizarre guest has been wandering through our home Milky Way galaxy, not bothering to settle down in some star system. And then, it came across the solar system. After the space traveler was discovered, hundreds and probably even thousands of telescopes all over the world, including ESO's Very Large Telescope in Chile, sprang into action. They started measuring the object's orbit, its color, and brightness. That's when it became apparent that the space rock had an unusual orbit. Some astronomers suggested that Oumuamua was emitting hydrogen it had picked up during its journey between stars. This was a simple explanation for the mystery that had evoked lots of outlandish theories. When this bizarre guest was first spotted upon entering the solar system, scientists were not sure what its nature was. Some claimed it was a comet. Others disagreed, saying it didn't have the features typical for comets: a visible long tail and a coma, which is a cloud of gases surrounding the nucleus of a comet. Plus, its shape was different from that of other comets. The only thing that made Oumuamua more comet-like was the way it accelerated as it went away from the sun. The unusual object started to slow down on its way out, but in a strange way, as if not only gravity was in play there. It seemed like something was creating a force to counter this gravity. But unfortunately, this theory didn't quite fit either. The problem is that comets usually have large quantities of water ice on their surface, and as the sun heats this ice, it gets ejected as jets of gas. Those jets act as mini rocket boosters. But Oumuamua not only had no tail whatsoever, but it was also too small to capture enough solar energy to support this kind of activity. Of course, this mysterious space visitor caused some more outlandish theories. For example, some people started to claim that Oumuamua could be a spacecraft sent by a civilization living in another star system. However, scientists found a better explanation. A comet that is traveling between stars gets cooked by cosmic radiation. These rays penetrate thick layers of ice, converting up to 25% of water molecules into molecules of hydrogen. And then, this trapped hydrogen gets released when some star warms the comet. The effects of this process are almost invisible. This might be the reason why we didn't see a spectacular tail accompanying Oumuamua. At the same time, the potential comet was so small that this could produce enough force to power its acceleration. As for the amount of ice released as Oumuamua was coming closer to the sun, it was likely too small for astronomers to spot it. Now, even though Oumuamua was the first known interstellar object to enter our solar system, it wasn't the last. In August 2019, comet 2I Borisov visited us, becoming the second ISO astronomers managed to spot. Now, no one can argue that there simply must be more visitors from faraway star systems than those two. ISOs are rare, but our solar system is pretty old. It must have been capturing some interstellar travelers over the millions and millions of years of its existence, even though they never stayed for very long. One study has taken a closer look at interstellar objects, and they concluded that these space travelers might be caught not in solar orbits, but in near-Earth orbits. The astronomers working on this project even go as far as to claim that there might be a lot of ISOs in orbit around Earth. Now, finding tiny objects in the vastness of the cosmos is extremely tricky. Think about it. What images of distant areas of space do we usually get? Mostly stars. Sometimes unclear pictures of exoplanets. Even more rarely, it can be disks of debris. But fine detail in small space objects? Almost never. So it's actually lucky for us that other solar systems send their inhabitants to visit us. Because by studying ISOs, we gain insight into the formation, evolution, and functioning of other star systems. Have you ever heard of the Oort cloud? It's the most distant region of our solar system, and it's quite unusual. You see, the orbits of the planets lie mostly in the same flat disk surrounding the Sun. But the Oort cloud is believed to resemble a spherical shell surrounding the entire solar system. It looks like a gigantic, thick-walled bubble made up of chunks of ice and other space debris as large as mountains or even bigger. Astronomers think that the Oort cloud contains billions, if not trillions, of different objects. There might also be a connection between the Oort cloud and ISOs. because scientists think that interstellar objects might outnumber those from the solar system in this region. Even though no one has ever observed the Oort cloud directly, astronomers are sure it does exist. They made such a conclusion after observing the distribution of comets in our solar system. The Oort cloud could have formed from debris in the early solar system, but some experts argue that the largest part of this unusual shell could be interstellar in origin. If travelers from other star systems are as common as some studies suggest, lots of the bodies on the edges of the solar system are likely to have originated in other systems. Sadly, this theory hasn't been proven yet. Now, since we've been talking about comets, not Cupid or Donder or Blitzen, one of them has recently approached the Sun at breakneck speed. It was 96P Mach-1. This comet is around 3.7 miles wide, and astronomers think it might have arrived from outside the solar system. The NASA European Space Agency Solar and Heliospheric Observatory spacecraft has been monitoring the comet. So look at this. That's the comet's tail. It's mostly made up of gas. It's trickling behind frozen chunks of ice that are getting heated by the radiation coming from the sun. In some cases, a comet can have two tails, one made of dust and the other consisting of gas. And each of them can reach hundreds and, in some extreme situations, even millions of miles in length. In 2008, scientists analyzed the material left by 150 comets. They found out that the comet we're talking about was quite low in carbon and didn't contain a large enough amount of some other typical materials. This could only mean one thing: the comet was an interloper coming from another star system. It may have been ejected from its original solar system by the gravity of a large planet. After that, the poor homeless thing probably spent a large amount of time wandering around space, until it came across Jupiter. The gas giant could have bent the comet's trajectory, trapping it in orbit around the Sun. There's one more theory. According to it, the comet formed in a poorly studied region of the solar system, and it has this weird composition due to its repeated journeys around the Sun. Now, scientists are watching the comet with anticipation, like Christmas. Since it's an atypical one, both in its behavior and composition, they don't know what they will see, which makes the whole process even more exciting. Most comets falling toward the Sun are quite small, not more than 32 feet across. That's why they burn up as soon as they come close to our star. But the sheer size of Mach-1, which is more than 2/3 the height of Mount Everest, seems to protect the comet from evaporating completely. So imagine being one of the first people sent to explore Mars. As you're approaching the red planet, something strange and creepy draws your attention. There, yes, right there. Doesn't it look like a mammoth bear's head? What or who could possibly create a bear's snout in the middle of a crater? Unfortunately, or should I say luckily, there's nothing mysterious about the bear's head. It's just a facial pareidolia. That's a tendency to see facial features in everyday things. But speaking about the finding on Mars, should we rename the phenomenon into bearidolia? You could see that coming, couldn't you? Alright, check it out. You see a V-shaped hill that looks like a nose. Then there are two craters that look like eyes. And then there's a circular fracture pattern, the head, that surrounds the nose and the eyes. Experts think that the face could be created when a deposit was settling over a buried impact crater, and the nose might be a mud or volcanic vent with solidified lava or mud flows around it. Anyway, the crater does look like a bear's face, I'll give you that. But thanks to HiRISE, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-resolution imaging science experiment camera, another of NASA's amazing acronyms, we've seen many other crazy craters on the red planet, like smiley faces, a bird, or an elephant. First, let's have a look at the famous face of Mars. These images were first taken by the Viking orbiter in 1976. At that time, the resolution was obviously quite poor, plus the lighting was slanted, which produced the result that shocked people in the 1970s, a face carved of rock staring back at Earth. Did it mean there was another civilization on Mars that had created this monument? Nah. Look at the photo of the same spot taken by the current Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. The resolution is much better, and the face has miraculously turned into an ordinary hill. Or look at this teeny Bigfoot, whose image was captured in 2008. I say teeny because this creature is just a few inches tall, and when the photo was taken, Bigfoot was only several yards away from the camera. And here, one curious soul zoomed in on a small rock and spotted something that resembled a gorilla. That's how some people started to believe there were apes on Mars. Yeah, really. Let me show you some more examples of imaginary creatures and faces on the red planet. Most of them come from a series of images taken by the Themis camera. Currently, it's on board the Mars Odyssey spacecraft, which only needs 2 hours to orbit the red planet, carrying some important scientific instruments. Let me introduce my Happy Martian to you. This 2-mile-wide crater was photographed in 2008. The next crater chain looks like a wasp with its wispy wings of impact debris. The whole feature was probably created by a meteorite that fell at a very low angle and broke into pieces right before the impact. Now, do you see a woolly mammoth or an elephant here? Lava flows in one region on Mars left this image on its reddish soil. The region itself, called Elysium Planitia, is famous for the planet's youngest lava flows. For example, the one that looks like a mammoth most likely formed in the past 100 million years. Just yesterday. Now let's talk about love, or rather its symbol, the heart. Do you like these two hearts on the surface of the red planet? This one is actually a mesa top outlined by frost, and this heart shape is an impact crater. The hit tore away dark surface material and exposed lighter soil underneath. Then some of the material probably flew downslope, creating the heart. And this dust-covered hummingbird, can you see its long beak and head? Scientists aren't sure how this shape was formed, but they think erosion and wind played a part in its creation. These dark sand dune deposits look like a howling wolf. And here, can you see a series of interlocking gears? This image looks like the letter T, right? The right angle fracture was created by the tectonic stretching of the Martian crust. Do you think we might find other letters of the alphabet on Mars too? Why not? And now, how about another bizarre thing astronomers noticed on the surface of Mars? Is that a door to someone's house? It was NASA's Curiosity rover that sent this image to Earth. It became viral because this formation over here, see, looks like a door. Unfortunately, scientists, due to their rational minds, were quick to disappoint us. They claimed that it was just a natural part of the Martian landscape. There were several clues that made them think it wasn't a real door. For example, the opening is tiny, a mere 3 feet high. They're sure that what looks like a door is actually an opening in a rock created by natural forces, like winds and erosion. If you look at the rock closely, you may notice strata. Those are layers of silt that stand out because they're harder than the surrounding material. These strata dip here on the left and a bit higher on the right. They likely appeared around 4 billion years ago in a river or a wind-blown dune. Since the strata became visible, powerful Martian winds have eroded them even more. And look at this. See those cracks? That's how rocks weather on the red planet. This small cave probably formed when several fractures crossed the strata. A pretty large boulder might have fallen out under its own weight, and this created the door-shaped opening. This theory is quite plausible, because even though the gravity on Mars isn't as strong as on Earth, it's still strong enough to do it. Besides, see that rock to the right of the opening? It has a suspiciously smooth vertical edge. It must be the culprit. It probably fell out not so long ago. But it's not only the red planet that can boast of having unusual formations. Let's take this comet, for example. This image was taken by the European spacecraft Rosetta in 2014. Can you see a face on its right-hand side? Or the moon. Here's its famous rabbit. It sits upside down with its ears pointing downward. Some people see a man on the moon. It can either be his face or the entire body. If someone sees the whole human figure, it usually looks like it's carrying sticks. Sometimes it's a toad. To spot it, look at the top left-hand side of our moon. The toad is facing upward, see? Now look at this spinning neutron star. Such a star is a collapsed core of a supergiant star with a total mass of 10 to 25 solar masses. Except for black holes and some hypothetical objects, like quark stars or white holes, neutron stars are the densest and smallest known stellar objects. Anyway, back to this particular star. As you can see, this space object, located 17,000 light-years away from Earth, is surrounded by a cloud of energetic particles. And this image, taken by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory, appeared in 2009 and became viral in no time. All because many people spotted a hand-like structure among all that space stuff. NASA explained that the star was spinning incredibly fast, spewing energy into the space surrounding it. This created intriguing and complex structures, like the large cosmic hand so many people see. Now, look at the Horsehead Nebula in the constellation Orion. This is a freezing cold and dark cloud of dust and gas that was first noted in 1888. This dark shadowing is created by dust, and at the base of the nebula, there are many bright spots. Those are young stars at the stage of formation. Pay attention to this extremely bright star in the top left side of the Horsehead. Its radiation is so powerful that the star is starting to erode the cloud around itself. It means that, in millions of years, the nebula might not resemble the head of a horse anymore. Well, I won't be around then. The European Southern Observatory Very Large Telescope has captured an image in which we can see the collision of 3 different galaxies. We can even observe the effect they have on each other. But the coolest thing is that, while colliding, they created a recognizable shape.